Columbus, Georgia. This is your city council. Mayor, Skip Henderson. City Manager, Isaiah Hughley. Byron Hickey, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff. District 3, Toya Tucker. District 4, Charmaine Crabb. District 5, Gary Allen. District 6, Joanne Kogel. District 7, Walker Garrett. District 8, Judy Thomas. District 9, At-Large Council, Travis Chambers. District 10, At-Large Council, Sandra Davis, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney, Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia. This is your city council.
Good evening and welcome to the September 24th City Council meeting. We're going to begin this meeting as we do all of our meetings, and that's by asking God's presence and blessing on the proceedings. But it is really an honor to welcome Senior Command Chaplain of Fort Moore, Colonel Scott Coleman, to the podium and to return a request for blessings for us. Welcome, sir. If you would, we got it right here. Hold on. There we go.
Say that again?
Nope, we got it. I was just making sure the light was on.
We're good. Thank you, sir. And on behalf of Major General Tooley, it's an honor to be here this evening. I'm just going to open up and I ask you and invite you all to join me in my prayer for the council. Gracious Heavenly Father, we give you thanks and praise. Lord, I thank you for such a beautiful day here in Columbus. Lord, you are sovereign and you are in control. And Lord, I just thank you for your presence here this evening. And Lord, acknowledging just knowing, Lord, that we are not a perfect, righteous, and holy people, but you are. Lord, I thank you that for these men and women here who are serving on council to serve this city, to serve the broader area of Columbus, Lord, and ask that you would grant them wisdom and discernment in the decisions that they make, Lord, because they make decisions here that impact so many people, the entire community, and may their decisions be one that brings honor and glory to your character, to your name. Lord, we pray for this community. We pray for those that are in need and are struggling and need help. And may we be that help. And Lord, I pray, Lord, lifting up our nation as well, as a nation that is deeply divided, and polls and statistics are on razor's edge. And Lord, you know who you have chosen to lead our nation, and ask that you will bless us as a people and join us and bring us together in unity. I thank you again for this evening and ask your blessing. I pray this in Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Colonel. We appreciate your service very much. We certainly appreciate Fort Moore. All right, now, if you would, please stand and join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Council, the first order of business is to approve the minutes for September 10th. There's a motion and a second to approve those minutes. Are there any edits or any questions that anybody has regarding them? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? They are approved. We've got a number of proclamations today. We're going to begin with the Junior League of Columbus organization and a proclamation for diaper need awareness. And Mayor Pro Tem Allen is going to read that. If we have any representatives, please come forward to the podium. All of you. Oh, waiting on me.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my privilege to publish the proclamation, which reads as follows. Whereas diaper need, the condition of not being able to afford a sufficient supply of clean diapers to keep babies and toddlers clean, dry, and healthy can adversely affect the health and well-being of children and their families. And whereas national surveys and research studies report that nearly 1 in 2 families struggle with diaper need, and 48% of families delay changing a diaper to extend the available supply. And whereas a daily or weekly supply of diapers is generally an eligibility requirement for babies and toddlers to participate in child care programs and quality early education programs that enable children to thrive and parents to work. And whereas many parents struggling with diaper need report missing an average of 5 days of work each month due to an insufficient supply of diapers. Whereas without enough diapers, babies, toddlers risk infections and health problems that may require medical attention, resulting in medical costs, and parents may be prevented from accessing child care needed to go to work or school, thereby destabilizing the family's economic prospects and well-being. And whereas the people of Columbus recognize the diaper need is a public health issue, and addressing diaper need can lead to economic opportunity for the state's families and communities to improve health for children, thus ensuring all children and families have access to the basic necessities required to thrive and reach their full potential. And whereas Columbus is proud to be the home to trusted community-based organizations, including the Junior League of Columbus Diaper Bank, that recognize the importance of diapers in ensuring health and providing economic stability for families, and thus distribute diapers to families through various channels. And whereas through their important work of addressing diaper need, diaper banks play a critical role in supporting families, improving infant health and well-being, and advancing our local and state economic growth. Now, therefore, our Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, Skip Henderson, does hereby proclaim September 23rd through the 29th, 2024, as National Diaper Need Awareness Week.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the City of Columbus and each of you here for your continued support of Junior League of Columbus and our Diaper Bank. The mission of Junior League of Columbus is to advance women's leadership for meaningful community impact through volunteer action, collaboration, and training. And one of our main community impacts is our Diaper Bank, and we are the only diaper bank in this area within a 100-mile radius. We are honored to serve the families and the organizations in our surrounding area to meet this vital need. As you can see, the women here in our black dresses today, and our mission with the Little Black Dress Initiative is to raise awareness about poverty and its effects on women's lives. We wear the same black dress for 5 consecutive days to illustrate the restrictions that poverty places on choices, opportunities, and access to resources. Specifically, our organization highlights the needs for diapers, and we align this week with the National Diaper Need Awareness Week. Diapers are not covered under most government assistance programs, and we understand the need for diapers forces families to cut back in other areas, take on additional jobs, and miss work. Nearly half of U.S. families with young children struggle with the need for diapers. We commend each of you here today, and we thank you for recognizing this week with us and recognizing the importance of the work that we're doing here in our community and the need in our community. So thank you so much to each of you and to Mayor Henderson. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Columbus certainly appreciates all that the Junior League does all across this community and all the different ways that you help the people that live here. If you don't mind, come around and let us just shake your hand and thank you in person. I'll present you the proclamation.
locations. You know, by heart. List of locations by heart. The question was, where could diapers be dropped off? And we have about 15 locations right now that diapers can be dropped off. Any of the Growing Room Child Development Centers, we have boxes up front where we're collecting. Piedmont Urgent Cares, YMCA, Broadwin Chiropractors, NIGA 2. Where else are we? The Food Mill. And anywhere else I'm forgetting? So we've got a lot of community partners that are helping us collect those diapers right now. So yes, please feel free to drop off diapers at any of those locations, and we'll be collecting them there.
Councilor
So
Crabb,
thank
did you
you.
have a comment?
That was my question.
Okay, thank you for asking that.
Yes,
Thank y'all
you.
very much.
Thank you.
All right, next is a proclamation recognizing the Tuskegee Morehouse Football Classic. Deputy City Manager Lisa Goodwin is going to be accepting that, and Councilor Chambers is going to present it. Yeah, everybody else affiliated with this classic, please come forward.
So good evening, good afternoon. First of all, I am just honored to be able to present this proclamation. Tuskegee has been in my family a long time. My dad attended Tuskegee, my Uncle Doug Chambers attended Tuskegee, and have many friends that graduated from Tuskegee and drum major. Yeah, my uncle was the drum major for Tuskegee. Morehouse, plenty of friends that graduated from Morehouse. I'm just glad that it's back in Columbus.
Absolutely.
Because I can remember as a kid when it was a night game, and that was just the highlight of the year. So, and thinking about the economic impact, so I'm just glad it's back here in Columbus. But I would like to present this proclamation. Whereas the annual Tuskegee University Morehouse Golf Football Classic will be held at A.J. McClung Memorial Stadium on Saturday, October the 5th, 2024, returning to Columbus, Georgia, continuing a gridiron rivalry that began in 1902 with teams playing each other 84 times in over 100 years. And whereas this classic gridiron rivalry is recognized as the granddaddy classic of all historically black college football classics and has the distinction of being one of the longest running NCAA Division II classics in the nation. It was first played in Columbus in 1935 at Memorial and has continued to be played here each year with the exception of 1974. And whereas this is the 85th year the Tuskegee University Morehouse College Classic that will be played in the A.J. McClung Memorial Stadium, named for the late Honorable A.J. McClung, a 1933 graduate of Tuskegee University, Chairman Emeritus of the Tuskegee Morehouse Tigers Football Classic, and 29-year member of the Columbus Council, who served as acting mayor of Columbus in 1973. And whereas the presidents, their administrations, faculties, student bodies, alumni, families, and friends have been the support system which accompanies on-field victories with the marching bands, the piperettes, the Mahogany in Motion, cheerleaders, flag teams, and other auxiliary units at the forefront of all parades. And whereas the classic, like all classics past, will focus on a prominent parade, a week-long schedule of events, including church services, recruitment activities, media press conference, golf tournament, chairman reception, vendors village, jazz under the stars, and unbelievable tailgating with thousands of fans from all over the United States and abroad. And whereas this is the first time in the history of the Classic that a female has served as chair of the Classic, we congratulate Classic Chair and Deputy City Manager Lisa Goodwin. Now, therefore, Skip Henderson III, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, do hereby proclaim October the 1st through the 6th, 2024, as the 85th Annual Tuskegee University Morehouse College Football Classic Week. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Goodwin?
Yes, Mayor, Council, Mr. City Manager, we are excited for the return of this granddaddy of all classics, the Tuskegee Morehouse Classic, that will be played on October the 5th. That's the actual game. We have a number of activities starting next week, and we're just excited that they decided to come back home. You know, we don't know what happened in Birmingham. But one thing we do know is that they contacted us and said, look, we want to come back home. And so we welcomed them with open arms. And so we're excited. The community is excited. My board of directors and the Classic committee behind me, they are excited. And, you know, they've been working hard to get to the point where we are today. Again, we're excited because the reason this Classic took place anyway is because it really started with Fort Benning. The fact that the soldiers were unable to come and participate in a football game at the A.J. McClung Stadium. And so as a result of that, members of Morehouse and Tuskegee said, never again. We're going to have our own Classic. And thus was developed the Tuskegee Morehouse Classic. And so we're excited. This is a historic Classic. And of course, as you have heard, the oldest Classic in the nation, HBCU Classic. And so we're excited. We thank you for what you continue to do and just recognizing this Classic and perhaps and every year giving us this proclamation. So we're happy. We invite you to come out, be a part of that. We invite the public to come out and take part in all of the festivities that we are undertaking starting on next week. And so I've already talked with Doug. He is ready. And he called already and said, look, I'm ready. Just whatever we need to do, he's ready to do it. So, but again, we're excited. We're happy to also have our immediate past chair with us, Douglas Troutman. Yes. He surprised us on today. We've not seen him in a while. He's been under the weather, but we're glad to see you. Glad to have him here. We also have another of our past chairmen, of course, Judge Michael Bellamy, Emeritus. He is here, and so we're just excited. And then, of course, all of these folk here who make it happen. It's not just one person, but many make it happen. And so, again, we thank all of them. There are even more boots on the ground outside of what you see here today. But, Doug, give us a word.
Thank you all for supporting us. We're glad to be back at home. We hope to remain here for many more years. The city, the businesses, we need you. We need your support, your financial support, your telephone support, and your in-person support. Skip, we do have a golf tournament, so you and your son can get your clubs out. But the only other thing I would say on behalf of Morehouse, and as Coach Prime has said, from Morehouse College, we coming.
They say that every year.
And I will tell you, we are delighted to have the Classic back where it belongs. And we're looking forward to a wonderful kickoff this next couple of weeks. If y'all would come around and let us thank you for what you're doing. Oh, I'm sorry, we've got I got a few people. Councilor Huff.
Congratulations, Deputy City Manager, on your chairmanship, past chair, and the whole committee. I just wanted to congratulate you, thank you all for returning to Columbus, and inform some of the ones that are in your midst now. I didn't have the power, but they wanted me to go to Birmingham when it happened to bring you all back home. And I see some smiling faces today, and I think everybody's happy. And some of them that are with you today, I'll be able to talk to them tomorrow and get prepped for what's going on. Congratulations.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mr. City Manager, do you have some comments?
Mayor, I just want to say welcome home. And I see all of the old soldiers, they just won't go away. And A.J. McClung would be proud today. Welcome home.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Lisa, if you would come around, I'll present you the proclamation. Let us shake your hand.
Thank you, look forward to seeing you. Let's get out of here. How are you? Better? Doing great.
Man, I appreciate I'm paying your term and expecting you Friday morning.
I appreciate it. We're going to have good to see you. Thank y'all for what y'all doing. Well, she's nicer than you. I need to come to see you. Have anybody? Call my office and I will come. Hey, see y'all. Appreciate what's happening. Thank you so much. All right, next we have an opportunity to celebrate an incredible accomplishment. And so I've got Councilor Garrett is going to present a proclamation to Melanie Ann Anderson on Melanie Ann Anderson Day. If she would, anybody you've got with you, bring them up to the front with you, please, ma'am. Councilor Garrett, hit your light one more time. I'm sorry. There we go. Hang on. Check and see. Okay. It says it's on. Hey, try this again. I'm not sure we're having a little problem with that one. Hit it one more time. See if it's working without the light at the top. It's not coming on.
Use your lawyer voice.
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. Now we improvised here.
None of those are working.
It's my pleasure to read this proclamation into the record. Whereas through relentless hard work, unwavering dedication, and exemplary sportsmanship, Melanie Ann Anderson has been honored with the prestigious title of Shooter of the Year for 2024 by the International Bow Hunting Association, the IBO. And whereas Melanie Ann Anderson distinguished herself as the only archer to sweep all 4 national championship competitions in 2022 for the National Archery and the Schools Program, NASP, including NASP Bullseye, NASP 3D, Center Shot Bullseye, and Center Shot 3D. And whereas Melanie Ann Anderson has demonstrated exceptional skill and perseverance, amassing an impressive total of 46 first-place awards, 15 second-place awards, and 6 third-place awards in the NASP program. Chosen for the All-American Archery team for 2022 and 2023, one of 12 archers chosen in the nation, including an impressive amount of team awards, And whereas Melanie Ann Anderson has demonstrated outside of the school program, winning the IBDO 3D 3-Star Challenge in 2022, the IBO Field 3-Star Challenge in 2023, and second place for Shooter of the Year in 2023. And whereas, through her remarkable teamwork and leadership, Melanie Ann Anderson has significantly contributed to her team at Winbrook Christian School Warrior Archery, leading them to victory as the state champions for 4 consecutive years, national champions, NASP Open Worlds champions, and IBO World Team champions for 2 consecutive years, 2023 and 2024. And whereas Melanie Ann Anderson's time has ended at Winbrook Christian School, she will continue on at Brookstone School here in Columbus in hopes to continue her growth and leadership skills with archery. Now therefore, B.H. Skip Henderson III, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 as Melanie Ann Anderson Day. I do want to take a moment just to recognize one of my attorneys who's here, and I'm assuming you're the proud mom. And I know she's done well, and this is just remarkable accomplishments.
Melanie, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you.
That's a few. Listen, it's an outstanding achievement. I mean, and a model of consistency. It's just incredible. I did have an opportunity. I was invited a couple years back to come watch the competition at Winbrook. I was amazed at the skill of all these different level of young people. And to rise above that many folks that are all pretty daggum good with a bow, you've really done an amazing thing, and we're awful proud of you. You want to introduce the people you're with?
This is my mom, and then that's my grandpa, and that's my grandma. She takes me everywhere. That's my sister, and that's my stepdad, and they both helped me. So.
We want to thank all those that are pouring into you and keeping you focused on that training. So congratulations again. If you would come around, let us shake your hand. Y'all can come with us. Congratulations. Y'all are proud. Good job. I know. Good job. Outstanding. So good to see you. Hey, how are you? You don't have to. You just say hello. All right. Next, Councilor Hickey is going to publish a proclamation for Jonathan and Christopher Falls. So if they would come forward, and any and everybody with them. Byron, hit it one more time for me. I don't know what the heck.
There we
Okay,
go.
gotcha. Welcome.
I am very honored to read this into the records. The situation at hand here concerning the proclamation with Mr. Falls is truly what we love seeing here with our employees when they go above and beyond the call of duty. And it reads, whereas on Friday, August the 23rd, 2024, Christopher Falls, an employee with the CCG Public Works Department, observed an injured dog lying in the road on Georgia Drive while on his route. The dog appeared to be bleeding and in need of assistance. And whereas Mr. Falls immediately stopped to provide aid and recognizing the severity of the dog's condition, contacted his son, Jonathan Falls, for assistance. Jonathan, a student at CSU, left class to help his father. Upon arriving at the scene, Jonathan and his father carefully placed the injured dog into Jonathan's vehicle, and he transported the dog to Northside Animal Hospital for medical care, hoping to save the dog's life. And whereas upon arriving at Northside Animal Hospital, it was determined that the dog had sustained a gunshot wound to the head, and unfortunately had to be euthanized due to the extent of the injuries. The Falls family was subsequently charged a $285.35 veterinary fee for the medical treatment provided to the dog. And whereas at CCG, our motto is "We do amazing," and indeed, Mr. Christopher Falls and his son, Mr. Jonathan Falls, went above and beyond in their actions. This is a true testament to the spirit of amazing that we strive for every day. Now, therefore, I, B.H. Skip Henderson III, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, September the 24th, 2024, as Christopher and Jonathan Falls Day. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. My hope in all of this is just that as people hear about this, that they will think twice, one, before discharging any kind of, obviously, a firearm at anybody or any living creature. And I'm very proud of my son. Thank you for your help. And just, that we all have the heart to help, even if it's just an injured animal, do what you can to help. And other than that, it's just, I love animals, I love people, and I just, this doesn't happen all the time, so I just, we took the opportunity to help, and I just didn't want to see that animal, continue to suffer like that, so, yeah. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Falls, I would just like to go on and say that you did amazing that day. You did amazing, and I know that your supervisor was proud of what you did, because you could have just easily just drove around the dog and kept continuing on your route and everything, but you took the time that you took to provide assistance and aid to the dog, and then for your son to leave class. How amazing is that? Yeah. And your love for animals and for people, I think is amazing. And so, and Mr. City Manager, I would just like to just put in a request that hopefully that the Falls family can take their receipts to risk management and let them take a look at it. And hopefully, if there's any way that they can possibly reimburse the Falls family for their out-of-pocket expenses for trying to take care of this animal. I'm certainly, when he went there, they didn't expect a $285 veterinarian bill. So I don't know if there's something that risk management can take care of or can look at.
Mayor and Councilor, I don't think it's something risk management can handle, but I think we can find a way to raise $285. Okay. Just among the employees. Okay. But it wouldn't be a risk management expense.
Okay.
Mr. Falls, we're proud of you. Thank you so much for what you do for the city and the citizens, but thank you for your compassion as well.
No problem.
If you would come around, let us shake your hand. Thank you. Did you introduce your mom? Behind all this, we know you got them straight. All right. Next is Councilor Tucker with a proclamation for Daisy Pearson. Is Ms. Pearson here? And anybody that wants to come with her, come on.
Come on, Holiday Park family. Y'all don't make Miss Daisy pop y'all. Well, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm so happy to see your smiling face today and all of the Holiday Park family. I see you out there, Miss Tut. I appreciate you for coming today. So I will say this. Miss Tut reached out to me, and she definitely said we needed to honor you for what you have done for Holiday Park. That's number one. One of the things that I learned is that Neighborhood Watch groups, the national branch, started like in 1972. And when I asked you how long you've been doing it, you said over 40 years.
Over 44 years.
Oh, over 44 years. So you probably started was probably one of the first for the city of Columbus. So today we are going to honor you and thank you for the work you have done in Holiday Park, District 4, and the city of Columbus, because we appreciate you. So the proclamation reads, whereas Daisy Pearson has dedicated over 40 years of tireless service to the Holiday Park community as the president of the Neighborhood Watch program. And whereas through her unwavering commitment, Daisy Pearson has fostered a safe and secure environment, building strong relationships among neighbors and working closely with local law enforcement to prevent crime. And whereas her leadership, vigilance, and sense of responsibility have been instrumental in reducing crime, promoting community awareness, and improving the overall quality of life for the residents of Holiday Park. And whereas Daisy Pearson has consistently demonstrated the core values of selflessness, integrity, and dedication, making her a beloved and respected figure in the community, serving as a role model for civic engagement and volunteerism. And whereas her contributions extend beyond crime prevention, as she has also been a source of support and inspiration to countless families, ensuring that Holiday Park remains a welcoming and united neighborhood. And whereas the city of Columbus recognizes the importance of individuals like Daisy Pearson, who through their efforts help build stronger, safer, and more connected communities. Now therefore, B.H. Skip Henderson III, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, as Daisy Pearson Day.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for working along with me. Mr. Henderson, the mayor. They've all been out to my neighborhood watch meeting down at Fort Miller School, where we have it the second Wednesday in every month until one more, and then we'll break off because I don't want the senior citizen out at night. And so the daylight saving time puts us back until March of next year, 2025. But I couldn't have did it by myself. It took all of my neighbors and friends and church members and things to help me over there over the years. And it's just been good working with the young children and things, because in the last 30 years, we used to wash cars, and the kids would wash the cars down there at the corner of the service station, and we raised money to go on field trips and do things. I did all of this, we did, with the help of, the neighbors. And all of the police department, they all know me. And from the night out, Ms. Tucker and they was over there at my house and a lot of more of them. But again, I'm old now and I'm wearing out, so I'm ready to retire and pass it on to somebody else in the neighborhood. Because I'll be 83 years old. You're going back. In a few months, and I wanted y'all to know. I was thinking about her birthday. She just had her birthday, turning 63. That's my daughter, Mary Bridges, and they all was raised over there on Nassau Circuit in Holiday Park. And we moved to Columbus in 1969, and we've been here ever since. All 5 of my kids graduated from high school and went to college. Miss Tucker, and all of you all know them too. And anybody else have anything they want to say, you know, they welcome to say it. Come forward and say it.
Miss Daisy, I want to thank you. I really do. I want to thank you and all of the residents that live in Holiday Park. When we had that one meeting where I brought Chief Mathis in, and we saw the maps with when Graham had showed us which ones had the hot spots, the Holiday Park side was untouchable. Now, we went across the street, we had some issues. But it really is a testament of you all being a close-knit neighborhood, a close-knit community, and you all care about each other, and you see about each other, and you gonna call, because Ms. Tut gonna make sure she call, but you gonna call, and really, that's what neighborhood is about. It's not about telling or anything like that. It's about caring about your neighbors and reporting. If you see something, you say something, you report it, and you keep the crime out. And you all have done that on the Holiday Park side. So thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you all, too.
Ms. Pearson, thank you. If we had 100 more like you, we could wipe out crime in Columbus. Come around and let us shake your hand. Thank you for what you do.
Come on, go that way. Hey, Mitch, where you at?
I'm right here.
Come on.
I have been. This is for you. Thank you so much. Thank all of you. Yes, sir. This is awesome. Appreciate it. That's my mom and I don't think I would. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate y'all so much.
Thank you.
Hey, big guy. I want to brush this on you. All right, next we'll invite to the podium Rosa Evans and all the other folks here from Metro to celebrate Communities in Motion. And this is Councilor Thomas.
Thank you, Ms. Evans, and I'm also proud to be able to read this into into our record. whereas public transportation is making a real difference in the daily lives of individuals and households in Columbus, Georgia. And whereas public transportation is vital to the quality of life and economic well-being of all citizens. And whereas workers, there it is. Whereas workers, school children, senior citizens, people with disabilities, and those unable to afford transportation, automotive transportation, to gain access to public schools, medical facilities, and other fundamental services. And whereas public transportation helps lead the nation toward its goals and policies of protecting the environment, conserving energy, and providing for the health, safety, and security of its citizens. Whereas Communities in Motion Day is an annual event hosted by Metra, where community partners provide opportunities and information catering to the needs of citizens as it relates to health care, housing, financial planning, education, and transportation. Now therefore, Skip Henderson, Mayor of Columbus, does hereby proclaim Thursday, October the 3rd, 2024, as Communities in Motion Day. Congratulations.
Thank you, Councilor Thomas, and to you, Mr. Mayor, and members of council, Mr. City Manager. We are honored to be here today to talk about our annual event. We come every year to share with you the information and the importance of public transit and to share with the public, with the community. This celebration that we're looking forward to on next Thursday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. at our transit system. This is a huge event. We look forward to it every single year. And across the country, public transportation helps to bring a better quality of life in our communities. Public transportation in the United States is a crucial part of the solution to the nation's economic, energy, and environmental challenges. I want to say that again. Public transportation in the United States, it's everywhere, every state, every city. Public transportation is crucial, a part of the solution in the nation's economic, energy, and environmental challenges. Every segment of society benefits from public transportation. Individuals, families, communities, businesses, everybody benefits from public transportation. It is the lifeblood. I love to say it is the lifeblood of any community. Without public transportation, the community cannot strive. What good is a job when you can't get there? Or a grocery store, or a doctor's appointment, or educational, when you cannot get there. So I just want to say that this is a day on the 3rd that we show our employees, and we just have a few of them who were able to come today. But we want to say to our employees, thank you for the service that you provide each and every day. And we want to say thank you to our citizens who patronize public transportation. Before I step away, I just want to recognize a few agencies, because the other facet to this is we have local agencies that come out and show their appreciation and offer whatever service that they provide. So they'll be at the transfer center and they'll set up their different little expos and provide services to those that are there. So we sent letters out and we're hoping that others will respond, but At this point, we have Access to Independence, and they service persons with disabilities. We have Bicycle Columbus. We have a few of our city departments, our Human Resources Department, Community Reinvestment, and those are very important. You know, they come out and share information about employment and jobs, community reinvestment. They will come out and talk about affordable housing. And we have the Victim Witness Office who will be with us this year as well. The enrichment services will be there. West Central, the Cancer Coalition will be there. United Way will be there, and Goodwill Industries. So we have so many local agencies who are coming out to support this event. And so I'd like to invite each of you to come out and just, you know, take a few minutes of your time and come out and just, you know, enjoy yourselves, okay? And again, I want to thank our employees for all they do each and every day, and thank you all for letting us come out.
You want to introduce the folks that are with you?
Absolutely. I would like for them to introduce themselves if they will.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Jenkins. I'm the transit manager.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ina Rivera, and I'm the ADA coordinator.
Good afternoon. I'm Everett Fleming. I'm the assistant director.
Good evening. I'm Robert Sheridan. I'm the transit compliance officer.
Good evening. I'm Willie Frazier. I'm the safety and training coordinator.
Good afternoon. I'm Alexander Billingsley, acting supervisor.
Hello, everyone. I am Justin Allen. I'm the Parking Divisions Manager.
Terrific. Mr. City Manager, do you have some comments?
Well, Mayor, I do, and I'm going to try and keep this brief, but want to commend Metra and the service that they provide to the citizens of Columbus, Georgia. And as the director was talking, Mayor, I told you last week that there was a environmental justice group that came to town for about 4 days. And they were up at City Mills, the hotel, and they were there 4 days. And they asked me to come and talk to them about environmental justice. And I had to think long and hard about what that conversation was going to be. And so I shared with you, Mayor, that, you know, I put together some things that, you know, that I had not really given the attention to that I need to give to, and perhaps we all have not. And the director today, she mentioned some things that were noted. I heard her mention poverty. I heard her mention economic and environmental challenges. I heard her mention quality of life, amongst a number of other things. And so when they came to me, the thing that came to mind, and some of you were here in 2019, I brought a group to this council where they had done a study, the CDC had done a study of 500 cities, healthy cities, and they looked at 4 larger cities in Georgia. And our city was one of those cities that they looked at. And they looked at specific zip codes where you provide transportation, and you have buses that are 1 hour apart. If you miss a bus, the next bus comes in 1 hour. And then you have buses that are an hour and a half apart if you miss that bus. And that'll get you to the transfer center, and then you got to get another bus to get to another side of town for other services, programs that you need. And so, but when they came to this council, a number of counselors commented. Council Pop Barnes, Council Mimi Woodson, Councilor Judy Thomas, commented on that study that they done where in certain zip codes there were prevalence of asthma, COPD, arthritis, heart disease, and cancer. And so when I talked to them about environmental justice, one of the things I talked to them about is the importance of transportation, because you've got to, they're food deserts. 31903, 06, 09, we have a 20% poverty rate, but in those areas combined, it's 35.8%. and they're food deserts, and they need transportation to get there. And so the service you provide, I wanted to highlight, is one of the things when you talk about environmental justice that we've got to have in order to afford people a similar quality of life. And you're doing that, and I appreciate the service that you provide. Mayor, I just wanted to share that that's one of the importance of transportation and one of the importance when you're trying to deal with the lack of environmental justice across the board in all of the zip codes, not just in our city, but it's all over the country. But transportation is important, so thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the support of this governing body. We couldn't do what we do without you, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Rosie. You want to come around, let us shake your hand. Thank you. Up. Councilor Chambers.
Before Mr. Jenkins, I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins, he's the transit manager, but he has driven over 1 million miles. So I think that's commendable. So thank you. Thanks for all that you do.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Counselor. All right. And lastly, in my agenda, we've got a presentation, an update on the underserved and inmate healthcare program. It's going to be presented by Bob Paskowski and Jane Jerzak, and Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge.
So I was going to just introduce them. They're here with PYA. They are developing the program that we're now calling the Community Care Program. This is healthcare services for the underserved. They're here to talk about the timeline. They have spoke with a few of you already, but there's a lot of key stakeholders in the community that they will be interviewing so that when they're developing this program for consideration by City Council, we're trying to reach as many of those who are providers in the area. So as you hear this presentation, if there's someone you think they should speak with, please let me know and I will pass that information along to them. But today we have two principals from PYA, Bob Paskowski and Jane Jerzak, that will be here to present today.
Good evening, and on behalf of PYA, thank you for this opportunity. It's good to see a familiar face. Again, this is just a great opportunity for our firm to help serve this population. And just by way of my background, before I joined PYA, I spent about 25 years or so on the health plan side, and really that's about managing of populations, and really that's what we're talking about here. It's a passion of mine in our firm of trying to help this population, getting access to good quality care, having a wide network of providers, coordinating their care, and really improving their care on a long-term basis. So that's really the spirit of our project here as we launch. I'll let Jane introduce herself here in a minute, but just from an agenda perspective, we wanted just to give a quick background on PYA and the project. Again, as Pam said, we're just starting to launch. Talk a little bit about our approach and how we'll structure the project, and then some estimated timelines and some key milestones. And then we'll open up for Q&A. So for those of you who are not familiar with PYA, we're a national accounting firm with a heavy focus on healthcare. And I put the map here to show that there's a heavy concentration here in the southeast, just north here in Atlanta. We have an office there, and you can see the different service lines that we provide. Key thing here is, if you look in that upper right quadrant about the people with our experience, so if Bob or Jane cannot answer some questions. We've got a phone a friend. We've got over 200 to 300 different professionals that we can call on with specific credentials. 340B might be an example for this particular project that we can call on as part of this project. And we've got a team of about 5 or 6 people, but we have resources beyond just our group that can help. The other thing I'd pay attention to is here the number of healthcare clients, 3,400. So we live and breathe healthcare. We have clients in all 50 states, and it's a big concentration of our firm, so that fits in nicely with this project. Just from anytime we go into a project, we want to make sure we understand the scope of the project, and a couple of things we just put up here on the slide is on the left side of this are the program objectives, pretty much straight out of the RFP process that you all went through, and we want to make sure those are the guardrails as we go through the project. Those first 3, I'm not going to read them all, is really about putting together the network and developing a network for access and quality care for these populations. Number 4 and 6 are really about I'll say the financial pieces of that, developing a comprehensive reimbursement program and perhaps setting aside some reserve monies for expenses going into the future. And then number 5 is really about success. What does success look like in a year from now? How can we track how many patients, how many have we served? What is the quality of the care? How has the network reacted to that? So those are kind of the guardrails of the project. And then straight again out of the request for proposal was the key terms. Again, this is very important that we define who the target population is, as Pam mentioned, both the underserved and the inmate population. What services are covered for that population? Because again, we're helping manage the fund here that's been set aside for this population. And again, program is really as Pam called it, the community care program. We'll be talking to many providers to help put together the network. And more like we'll have a third-party administrator which will help to help manage the funds and the payment of claims for that population. So a little bit of background as we launch into the project. And I'll turn over here to Jane, but here's where we're trying to at least initially start to put together a little bit of the structure, because there's a lot of moving parts here, and this is how we're at least thinking about how we'd like to organize the project. So I'll turn it over to Jane.
Thanks, Bob. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jane Jurzak. I'm coming here kind of with 2 frames of mind. I am a registered nurse, so we'll be mindful of the clinical services provided in this program, as well as a CPA, so definitely looking at the finance side of things. So what are we really here to do? We're really here to help your city be good stewards of the community care fund that you have the privilege of sharing with the inmate population as well as the underserved. So how are we going to use those funds most appropriately, most effectively, most efficiently? So that's really our charge. We're excited to help you do that work. With your spirit of excellence, that's our goal as well, to create a program of excellence that you can be proud of for your city. So this page is just a framework of how we're going to work with you as community leaders. We're reporting to the City Council, working hand in hand with the Office of the City Manager. Our work is divided into 4 what I'll call swim lanes. So the first thing that we need to do is really understand who we're serving, the inmate population and those that are underserved today from a healthcare perspective, looking not only at medical care, but behavioral health care as well. So we need the who. Who are we serving? Who's in your community that needs care that perhaps isn't getting it today in one of those 2 populations? So then we're going to, in this first swim lane, define or look at a potential provider network, a panel of providers that can provide mental health care as well as medical care to these 2 stakeholders, these constituents. Once we figure out who's our possibility will be setting some criteria and then, in a sense, helping you as a city define what program might make the most sense. The second swim lane is all about reimbursement. How are we going to pay those healthcare providers that are really helping to serve those members in our community that we are caring for under this community care program? So the reimbursement terms. The third is, and very important, as Bob said, measuring program effectiveness. What does this mean for this community care fund? That's roughly $12 million a year in your 25 budget. Well, it can be things like access to care. Are the people that you are serving in these two populations getting the care they need? Quality of care. What is the quality of care? What are the outcomes of care? How well are the healthcare leaders integrating care and assimilating with all the other resources that we heard about just today? All the way from diapers to other services in your community, transportation. So how well are the programs integrating with each other? That might be a key metric. The number of patients that we are serving, that may be another key metric. So we'll work with you and define what key metrics can we measure so that at the end of each year, you can evaluate and feel good about how your funds were spent, what's working well, what might need improvement as we go into the future. And the last lane, and Bob will lead this lane, we're calling it an actuarial reserve. That's kind of a big fancy name for maybe we don't spend all the money, right? We held a little bit aside so that if something really disastrous happens, we'll have a bit of funding to roll over into the future. And how much might that be? So that's the process. And then the last slide I have to share with you is a sketch of the timeline. This is our initial sketch, and I think the important thing is the first swim lane is we want to interview people. We want to talk to you, a number of you we've talked to already. We want to understand from your view, from your constituents, what's working well, what are some opportunities for improvement as to how we can use this fund that you have available for your community members. So we'll do some interviews, then we will identify potential program or providers in your community who can help us serve these constituents, both mental health as well as medical care. We'll evaluate their proposals, we'll set some reimbursement methods so we can understand how they may get paid. We'll put together the benchmarks, the key performance indicators. Bob will work to set some, in a sense, monies we might have you set aside for the future, and then the program could potentially launch. We are not going to be involved at this point in the launching of the program. We're here to help you design the program, get it set up, and really structure it for success. So that's our work with your community. We're excited to be here. By the way, your motto of excellence, I think, is really, really great. So thank you for thinking of that. Any questions for us this afternoon?
Councilor Tucker?
Yes. Hey, Bob, how you doing? First of all, I just want to thank you all for coming. Myself, Councilor Davis, and Councilor Barnes were the initiators of this community care. Of course, it was indigent care, and, you know, we came up with a new name with the community care. And one of the things that we're doing is pulling Councilman Hickey and Councilor Kogel onto the board, per se committee or whatever it is that we kind of brought together. But it's important, and I'm just happy that you actually added the measurements. Yes. You know, creating the metrics, that way we can measure the effectiveness, because as you know, historical data where we was in a 30-year contract previously, and those type of measurements, I'm gonna say in reference to being a counselor, I have not seen it. I don't know if other people saw it, but I did not see it. So being able to develop this process and going through, and I appreciate you all having a timeline with some key dates that we're shooting for to get this done. Now, I know Councilman Davis probably is upset because he's not here, but to start, the actual process, but I am. So, we spoke earlier within the month, and if you need me, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Councilor Huff?
Hello. Want to say thank you for being here. I'm meeting Bob for the first time.
Yes.
But Jane Jursak, thank you so much for the meeting we had. It was very informative. I had to rush and find me a parking place, so I took the call in my car underneath a shade tree. My question to the mayor and the city manager, is this something that Valley Healthcare can be involved in as far as a provider? Or does it have to be the hospitals?
No, I don't.
So I provided them a list of key stakeholders. I included Valley Healthcare, Mercy Med, the Bradley Center, the hospitals, everyone that had either showed interest in the program, but if there's others that you would like for them to talk to, if you'll just let me know, and I'll make sure either, if it's not on the list, I'll add it to the list.
And thank you to you for setting up the meeting.
Yes, sir.
The other day, yeah. But I mentioned that to Jane the other day, that Valley Healthcare I thought would be a good provider.
Yes,
Okay.
they are on the list, but if there are others, please let me know.
And I'll call you. I told you I'll be in Atlanta in a couple of weeks, so I'll come by.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I think that's all the questions.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. All right, and before we move into the city attorney's agenda, I'll just briefly tell you that we urge everybody to take the weather forecast seriously. Don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully it will skirt to the east and we won't get much of that impact. But all of our departments are mobilizing to make sure that they are on standby. The city manager can probably give you more details, but everything from public works to fleet management, trying to make sure that we have everything in place. Our Parks and Recreation is standing by to open any recreation facilities if we have anybody evacuating from Florida. So we will be sending, I think, our stormwater management team out there to make sure that the stormwater intakes are not blocked. I would ask you that if you see one that's blocked, call in 311 and let us know, because that will help us prevent any flooding. But I would urge you to take it seriously, and if you live in an area that is prone to flooding, try to make all the necessary and adequate steps needed. All right, we'll move on to city attorney's agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Got a fairly short business agenda. The first item up is the zoning at 5710 Warm Springs Road.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Are there any discussion on this item? All right, if you would post that, and we'll let the council enter their votes.
Yeah.
All right, and that passes.
All right, so Mr. Jeff Cut in the back, that is approved. Thank you, sir. The next item is the demolitions, the 8 properties we discussed last meeting. It's ready for approval.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve the properties that are scheduled for demolition. Any discussion? Anyone want one pulled for further discussion? All right, if you put that on the screen and we'll let council register their votes.
One more.
All right, those, demolition of those properties is approved.
Okay, the next item is a second reading, section 2-3.03 on the purchasing limits. It's ready for adoption.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion on that item? All right, if you please put it on the screen. Councilors, enter your votes, please.
Is that everybody?
I think we're waiting on Councilor Chambers.
Chambers?
I feel your pain. All right, so we are, that is approved.
All right.
Councilor Chambers being a yay.
Okay, the next one is the Liberty Theater Cultural Arts Advisory Board Amendment. It's ready for adoption.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion on that issue? All right, please put it on the screen. We'll call the vote.
It says it's been accepted.
Okay. Councilor
All
Thomas,
right.
is that a?
Councilor Thomas is yes. Okay, that's approved. Item 5, Mayor, this is first reading of an ordinance to amend section 5-42 to allow keeping of chickens on any lot in the SFR category. I understand there may be some discussion or an amendment by Councilor Allen, but it's up for discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Thank you, Mayor. This issue came up about 10 years ago, and there's a lot of concern amongst council at that time about allowing smaller lots to have chickens. It's not about, let me make this point, it's not about not allowing someone to raise chickens. It's about protection of the neighborhood, because someone can have chickens in their yard, and there are a lot of things that can happen outside of that. If the chicken coop is too close, if children have access, there are a lot of diseases that can be, I mean, to be honest with you, chickens are just nasty animals. And they require a lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep, a lot of cleanliness, and my concern is going in that direction. If we're going to do this, if council's going to do this, we need a little more study on this. We need a little, take our time and approach it. But that's my view at this point, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on this item? It's on first reading. And anybody from the public can.
Anybody in the audience want to be heard, Mayor?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If we were to have a discussion about human rights, the right to feed oneself would be prominent on that list. For some people, this means taking their hard-earned money to a premium store, such as the Fresh Market, to buy organic food, free of pesticides, and minimally processed. For others, it means going to a big box store, such as Walmart, and stretching those dollars as far as they can on processed foods that are high in carbohydrates. The right to feed oneself does not simply mean the right to obtain food from a store using money earned through employment. It also means the right to produce one's food. Producing one's food not only provides sustenance, it also provides knowledge. This includes the knowledge of how it was grown and the chemicals that were used in the process. It levels the playing field for those who may not be able to afford to purchase minimally processed chemical-free food from a fancy store by allowing them to grow it in their own backyard. These practices are beneficial, not only for physical health and wellness, but for mental health and wellness too. It strengthens family bonds and allows children to witness firsthand where their food comes from. Backyard chickens are an important part of that process. They provide fertilizer that makes those gardens thrive. They consume weeds that otherwise might be carted off to the landfill. They control insect populations without the use of chemicals that end up in our water supply. Eggs provide a ready source of protein for growing children in quantities that it is difficult to match with vegetables. In 2016, I stood in this very spot as a representative of a growing community to ask that you empower the citizens of Columbus to produce their own eggs by reducing the property requirement threshold. In April of 2020, I stood in a grocery store picking through broken cartons of eggs in an attempt to put together a full carton for my family, as panicked people around me did the same. In 2022, I was forced to reduce the quantity of eggs that I purchased, as the broken supply chains of 2020 drove the price to $7 a dozen. In 2024, I'm happy to be able to return to this podium and ask that you support the revision of the current ordinance. It is an extraordinary opportunity to improve the lives of our citizens while costing the city nothing to do so.
Ma'am, if you don't mind, for the record, would you state your name and where you're from?
Elizabeth Melton Gallimore, 5824 Nacy Street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment? All right. There are no other questions around the table. We'll bring that back, Mayor, the next regular meeting. Last item we've got listed is acceptance of donation, revision in the policy for donations in an amount having a value over $1,000, which are not part of an annual authorization, shall be brought to council for approval by resolution on the city manager's agenda. Less than that, they can be accepted at the department level. It's ready for any discussion or questions. All right.
Period.
We'll bring that back in at the next regular meeting for a vote. The only other thing we've got, Mayor, is a request for executive session on litigation and personnel matter. That's all we have listed.
Okay. And I was asked by Councilor Tucker to remind everybody of the Walk to End Alzheimer's that's taking place in Uptown Columbus on the 4th of October at 5 o'clock. So anybody that wants to participate, we urge you to do so. All right, we'll move on to the public agenda. And just a reminder, if you would, start with your name and where you're from, and you'll have 5 minutes. And then if you need 3 additional minutes, we'll be glad to provide those at the end of the clerk's agenda at the end of the evening. First is Ms. Brooke Mobley regarding Columbus Animal Care and Control.
Good evening. My name is Brooke Mobley. I'm a 20-plus year resident of Columbus, Georgia, zip code 31909. And tonight, I'd like to talk to you about some of the recent Columbus Animal Care and Control closures and the impact that they have had throughout our community. Specifically, closures in the last 30 days. There was one August 21st through August 24th. We were closed due to parvo. On August 26th, the shelter was closed due to a CPD search warrant being executed. And then the shelter was closed again September 6th through Sunday, or through today, September 24th. It's my understanding that they did open at 1 o'clock today, right? And that one was due to a distemper outbreak. There were 2 other closures earlier in the year due to parvo, but I'm going to focus, like I said, on the last 30 days. So during the closures, the shelter is closed for any adoptions and intakes. So there's no dogs coming in, there's no dogs coming out. While that reduces the risk, it also causes overpopulation. It's just not a good situation. With the new shelter hours that were made effective August 27th, with all these closures, that means that the shelter has been open a total of 8 days, which is just barely over 25%, 26% actually. I don't know how dogs can be adopted if the public can't go in there and see them, or the dogs can't leave. So we're really not giving the homeless animals of our community a chance. Neither the mayor, city manager, nor public works director seem to have created or implemented any plan to continue providing animal services to the community during this time. The guidance that was provided on CACC's website was that if you find a stray animal, to foster it yourself or use social media to find the owner. I don't know about you, but I couldn't take a foster in my home without any notice. I have dogs and I live in an apartment, so that's just not feasible. So this is definitely not a sufficient solution, and it's unacceptable. As citizens who are paying for these services, we deserve better, and the animals deserve better. Because of this, we have seen many pleas on social media and through emails, people reaching out for help with strays. People are desperate. So what are they supposed to do? Again, can you at the drop of a dime take a dog that you don't know into your home? I really don't expect anyone to be able to answer what you're supposed to do, because the mayor's assistant actually reached out to Columbus Animal Allies for help, because the guidance was clearly insufficient that the city provided. In another example, a citizen even considered taking a stray back to the grocery store parking lot in hopes that they would find his way home. While I understand that the shelter manager has been placed on an administrative leave as of 9/12, and that is progress, why has no one else in the last 12 days, September 24th now, why has no one else stepped up? And how will the next shutdown be handled? Is there a business continuity plan? That's pretty elementary to me that there should be. Is there one in the works for the next one? During these closures, many animals have died in the care or were euthanized. As you are well aware, the previous vet resigned effective 8/31. And as of today, that spot is still vacant. It's 24 days. So in the middle of a major outbreak, there's been no vet on site. So let that sink in too. So we're opening up, we're adopting animals out. These animals have not received sufficient care. Parvo and distemper are both preventable through proper vaccinations, which should be administered upon intake. However, your city director stated at the September 19th Animal Advisory Board meeting that no vaccinations had been administered at CACC since the vet's resignation on August 31st. So during this outbreak, none of the animals have been treated. So how many more are going to be testing positive? 27 dogs have already been euthanized during these closures, and that only includes stats through September 15th. So there's still 9 days worth of euthanizations that are not included in those numbers. There's a lag in publishing information and getting records. I know some of it's due to the investigation, but just think about that, 27 dogs in 21 days. Considering no vaccinations are being administered and no vet is on site, this leads me to wonder how confident we are that the outbreak is under control, because I am not. How long will the shelter
Ms.
remain
Mobley,
open?
I'm sorry, your 5 minutes are up. Thank you, ma'am. All right, next is Mr. Marvin Broadwater Sr. regarding hostility towards private citizens from counselors.
I will ask for my 3 minutes at the end, Mr. Mayor.
Duly noted.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney. My name is Marvin Broadwater Sr. I reside in Columbus, Georgia, 31909. I pray all of you are well. As always, I thank you all for your continuous servant leadership to our great community. Honestly, I wish I was here addressing another issue, like why do we continue to have teenagers murder each other in our fair city, and assist you in identifying solutions to what seems like a systemic problem. Our country is at an all-time high of the polarizations of issues, and it appears the polarization efforts have made its way to this hallowed chamber. I would like to personally thank all of the veterans and citizens for their continued encouragement after I was accused of and ridiculed of attempting to intimidate others who address this entity. I learned in the military and practice as an equal opportunity advisor that person's perception is their reality. If those that I spoke to felt intimidated in any way, form, or fashion, let me say for the record that that was not my intent. However, I would like you to understand, I believe in democracy wholeheartedly. What I don't believe in is people issuing hate-mongering speeches, conspiracy theory speeches, or speeches that divide us as a community. And I will add, if my name has to be dragged through the mud, as it was during last month's council meeting, then so be it. I am that one. I believe God built me differently. And I also believe God places certain people in certain situations to forward his word, like Peter in the Bible. While it is your right to speak on any subject and speak your mind about that subject, one does not have the right to call out others and defame their names or issue defamation of their character. I will forever communicate to those that produce these type speeches. It is wrong. And as a veteran who has been shot and killed others, all in the name of democracy, from one who will forever walk with a limp because of my defense of democracy and the pursuit and defense of freedom, as all veterans have done, I considered it my duty and responsibility to do so. We have those in our community that will speak here at this podium and hide behind the very blanket of freedom for which many of us have sacrificed so much. Democracy is not just for a few Americans. Democracy is defined as a system of government in which power is vested in the people. Our leaders are democratically elected to guarantee all civil liberties and all human rights. As my mother would say, Marvin, it means respect for all, my son. There are those in our community that would prefer to keep us divided, and they have their cronies. I guess I am just built different because I'm going to continue to speak and tell you if your rhetoric is hate-mongering or dividing. We have those that will speak up, we have those that can't speak up, and we have those that refuse to speak up. But we also have those that only speak or say what others have instructed them to say. Again, one does not need a PhD to understand that we should have respect for all. Thank you for your time and attention. May God bless you. And I'll close by saying this, my 38 seconds, Mr. Mayor, so I won't need it. You have the right to burn a flag, but I guarantee you, if you walk to Building 6 on Fort Moore and burn a flag, somebody's going to stop you. Just because you have the right to say it or do it does not mean you need to do it. Thank you. God bless you.
Thanks, sir. All right, next, Ms. Teresa Elamine regarding treatment of citizens.
Thank you. Friends and comrades, I rise to exercise my First Amendment constitutional right to freedom of speech without government interference, punishment, or retaliation. A right, Mr. Mayor, I watch you try to take away from citizens with things like we can't say the names of our elected officials when their plates are there in their permanent seats. I really don't like to go against you, Mr. Mayor, even when I think it's just petty nonsense. Like we got our 5 minutes now, and then we have to wait till the end of the clerk's agenda in order to get the other 3. The former mayor gave us 10 minutes. I think it's just a way of trying to deter us from coming back for the other 3, because you really don't want to hear what we have to say. When I say 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, everybody knows who I'm talking about. No one should run unopposed. We know that you have 27 months left, Mr. Mayor. You can let it run out, or you can do something. I emailed you about this 5-minute, 3-minute thing. Ignored. Ask you for meetings. Ignored. On the question of whistleblowers, whistleblowers provide an important service. Mr. Veal is a whistleblower. He comes here about the trashy areas of the city. He's in business. He's my lawn care provider. I'm so proud of the work he does, and I watch my neighbors trying to compete with my yard after he does it. And he's treated like some kind of public works mascot volunteer. He's in business, and he takes his time. Called me just the other day trying to get in touch with the District 3 rep about Winston Road. Haven't we heard that before? If you want to treat him with respect, offer him a contract. On the issue of the animal care and control whistleblowers, they are whistleblowers. I've been one, and I know what you did to me. Since I've sent you an email about that, I won't repeat it. But on the animal care and control whistleblowers, they're speaking for creatures who cannot speak for themselves. Creatures who are being abused and slaughtered. It's been unnecessary for all of this to go on for all these months. And then add to it the unnecessary public disgrace of employees who thought they were just doing their jobs. How much is that going to cost us, like you did Chief Freddie Blackman? He's disgraced over so-called poor job performance. As we all know, there's nobody who can stop the murdering and the killing. He couldn't stop it, but he was disgraced over it, run out of a career of decades. So let me just say this. Please don't do to me what was done to the citizen at the last meeting on the issue of nepotism. She was interrupted a couple of times, and then when she sat down, we have a staff person say, "Lady, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm not guilty." Is that where this is going? People gonna be putting in pleas? That's a show I wouldn't miss, but if I were you, I wouldn't put on that show. This needs to end, the mistreatment of citizens. If I called you and asked for a meeting, I don't see why you can't respond, even if it's like, "Lady, I ain't meeting with you." Just respond. Thank you. If anybody has anything to say to me, say it before I take my seat, because the only thing that should happen is the next person should be called. Don't be shouting at me from up there. I will talk back.
Thank you, Ms. Elamine. All right, right, next is Ms. Desiree Kennison regarding trash pickup policy change. Is Ms. Kennison here? Okay. All right, next is Ms. Allie Johnson representing Columbus Animal Allies regarding the presentation on the CACC at the last council meeting.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Today I had planned to go point by point through the presentation that you received on Columbus Animal Care and Control at the 9/10/24 meeting, but that's going to take up more than 5 minutes, and I'm just not going to do it. So I'll just mention a few items. First, the claims about cleaning and disinfecting that you heard are the same ones that have been made for the past year and a half, despite copious documentation to the contrary provided by citizens, local animal rescues, and former employees. Video that you viewed with your own eyes shows staff hosing out a Chai's run with nothing but plain water before placing a new dog in it. I would suggest that you request documentation for all claims made by those running CACC. Look at CACC purchasing records for the past year for parvo-killing products such as Wizzy Wash and Excel, and then ask a shelter expert if that's enough product for the regimen that they claim to follow. Please also ask for proof of the claim that they are now deworming, since they adamantly refused for the past year and a half, which is well documented. Management continues to claim that they're doing things we know they aren't. Keep in mind, these are the same people who ordered staff to vaccinate for rabies in violation of Georgia state law, because it has to be done by a veterinarian, stopping only when caught. These are the same people who claimed all animals were tranquilized before euthanasia and changed their practices only when caught. These are the same people who told you on video that injured animals are taken, quote, straight to animal emergency. And even when caught, they continued to let animals sit and suffer for weeks with broken bones, gunshot wounds, and other painful conditions without the necessary veterinary care. I want to address one other egregious statement from last meeting's CACC presentation, that a veterinarian resigned from the Animal Control Advisory Board, and he stated, quote, "It's hurting my business, I can't afford it." The implication, unbelievably, is that the community is somehow at fault for this supposed resignation. In fact, only one male veterinarian who has been on the board in the past 4 years and was removed right here at the March 26, 2024 council meeting for lack of attendance. So he didn't resign. I'd like to use the rest of my time to look back at what got us here to the current state of CACC so we can avoid making the same mistakes again. Let's go back to 2013, when the current Public Works Director was directly in charge of CACC. A former Columbus Police Department officer recently contacted Columbus Animal Allies about a disturbing incident from 2013 when he learned from a 911 dispatcher that Animal Control had placed poison-laced meatballs in a residential neighborhood to kill a mama dog and her puppies at the direction of CACC management. On his own time, this former CPD officer went to the scene and rescued the one surviving puppy and took it to Animal Arc Rescue, which we have confirmed directly with the director. She remembers this clearly and even named the puppy after the CPD officer. The officer investigated the incident of, quote, baited poison being placed in an uncontrolled environment, unquote, and emailed himself his notes, which include the names of all involved, and he wrote a memo to the then chief of police. He believes it was forwarded to the then mayor, who told CACC to stop doing this, and that nothing else came of the incident. The information has been provided to CPD investigators. The former officer said, quote, "To this day it infuriates me that no justice was done." He states there should have been a police investigation because in his opinion, quote, "this conduct was reckless and illegal." Keep in mind, the Public Works Director, who was directly in charge of CACC in 2013, handpicked and hired both of her successors and just placed the division manager she hired on administrative leave. She is now in charge of forming an RFP committee for animal services. When asked by an Animal Control Advisory Board member—
a lot of these are just allegations. We don't have any kind of
if the
proof
RFP
coming
committee would include an animal expert, this is on video, she answered me. It is clear an investigation of CACC has been needed for well over a decade. Instead, horrific incidents were swept under the rug and those responsible were rewarded with promotions and continued control over animal care and control operations. One last question. Who approved the division manager hiring a shelter supervisor who just started today? The division manager is currently on administrative leave and should never have been permitted to make a hire while under police and DEA and DOA investigation, especially when you consider that poor hiring has played a huge role in this current mess. Thank you.
All right. Next is Ms. Sandy Gunnels, Defense of the Bill of Rights.
As the mayor said, my name is Sandy Wright Gunnels. I live in lovely Lake Harding in Alabama. I do own property in Congresswoman Crabb's. Congresswoman, I just did you? I just promoted you. Councilwoman. I'm going to start with a little civics lesson today and share some Supreme Court and lesser court rulings because it is apparently needed in this chamber. The Constitution of the United States of America is the fundamental law of the U.S. federal system of government and is the oldest written national constitution currently in use at this time. The Constitution divides the principal branches of government and their jurisdictions and the basic rights of all citizens. The Bill of Rights is made up of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. The first amendment of these 10 amendments is as I read. Congress shall make no law respecting, 1, an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Number 2, abridging the freedom of speech. Number 3, of the press. Number 4, of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble. And number 5, to petition the government for a redress of grievances. There are numerous reasons why the First Amendment has the number 1 position in the list of our nation's constitutional values. First, 1A is a strong deterrent against governmental abuse of citizens. Secondly, ensures that illegal and criminal acts by government officials can be uncovered by the public and not remain covered up, such as the nepotistic hiring practices and employee favoritism that I attempted to address at the last council meeting, but was not allowed to complete. Perhaps the most fundamental of all the 1A free speech principles is that individuals have a right to speak at public meetings, which includes the free speech right, say that 3 times, to criticize the government. The U.S. Supreme Court explained this core principle in the New York Times versus Sullivan, writing of our profound national commitment to the principle that debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. When government officials retaliate against or silence speakers at public meetings based on the content of their speech, significant First Amendment implications arise. The Supreme Court clearly articulated this in Chicago PD versus Mosley, writing, above all else, the First Amendment means that the government may not restrict speech because of its messages, its ideas, its subject matter, or its content. And by the way, speech isn't restricted to the spoken or written word. It also protects clothing, accessories, movies, TV, art, music, yard signs, and video games. Government officials frequently try to justify their actions by claiming speakers made demeaning comments or launched personal attacks on public officials. But these justifications are most often found to be a pretext to silence or shut down speakers simply because they are critical of the government officials. Such is the nature of being a public official in a robust democracy. I'm going to skip some of these readings, but in Baca versus Moreno Valley School District, a federal district court invalidated a school board policy that prohibited individuals during a public comment period from making charges or complaints against any employee of the district. The court held that this content-based speech restriction could not withstand First Amendment review and impermissibly impacted the rights of speakers and those in the audience who wanted to hear them. There is a Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression known as FIRE. They're a nonprofit civil liberties group who in June 2022 broadened its focus to include governmental agencies because of the rampant law breaking. One of Fire's successful lawsuits that I found apropos to our situation was against the now former mayor of East Point, Michigan, for silencing citizens who criticized her at a city council meeting. When a community activist spoke, the now former mayor cut her off. When others tried to show their support, the now former mayor shouted them down. The city attorney there tried to stop the mayor and was telling her that citizens have free rein to voice their opinions. I wonder why our city attorney did not feel the need to do that. And I would like my 3 minutes.
You will wait on you can have them. And I will tell you, Ms. Gunnels, it wasn't because you criticized folks around this table. I mean, I think you've noticed that we pretty well let folks criticize the people around this table because
Sir,
elected
you stopped me
elected
because,
officials,
and said I
no,
could
I'll
not
tell you
use
why,
a
because I
title
stopped
or
you.
name, and that's
And the
illegal.
reason was because you were talking about an alleged crime with nepotism. And the First Amendment does not give you the right to spread rumors that are untrue and unfounded. You can express an opinion.
Unless it's knowingly
but
wrong, then you
well,
can't.
but
And we've got
that is
proof.
the only
We've
reason,
provided
that
it.
is the only reason I stopped you, is because you got into an area
No, sir.
where you were claiming
That's
that
not
there
why
had been a
you
vi-
stopped
No, that's why I stopped you.
No, sir.
So,
Why did you, yeah,
there,
just stop Ally.
there again, well, Ally was talking, I think, about the other
Let me
stuff
just say
going on
what
with the
you
thing.
did is against the First Amendment.
I don't think that's accurate. We checked with the city attorney. Thank you, ma'am. All right, we've got Miss Debbie Wooten, representing Columbus Animal Allies Reform Plan and Transition at Columbus Animal Control.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Wooten, born and raised in my beloved Columbus, which I am now ashamed of. Mayor, Columbus Animal Allies prides ourselves on facts. We never post anything. We never give you any information that we have not delved into, and it's all factual. From your record request, come from the city attorney, from CACC, from the law firm that you hired, outside law firm. So it's not assumptions. We pride ourselves on truth. CACC reform plan and the move forward. At the last council meeting, you discussed how no veterinarians want to work with CACC in its current state, but they do want to be part of the solution. I'm so glad you're thinking about a solution, but in order to move forward, we have to look at what got us here, the past. So we don't need to repeat these mistakes. And the way forward, which holds exciting possibilities for us to truly become a model city for animal care. Now, the plan to move forward, we recommend you put in place a qualified, compassionate interim director with a proven passion for animals to immediately turn CACC around, with the possibility of making them permanent if they do an amazing job. For example, such as the police chief, Mathis, with the Columbus Police Department. The Animal Care Advisory Board must have an active role in hiring this person, and it should be done swiftly and carefully. We have forwarded one CV from an extremely interested person who is willing to move here to take the job and has a master's degree in public administration and past veterinarian clinic experience. And CACC must be taken out from under Public Works and made a standalone department. Then and only then will our community have a true shelter, a true safe haven, a true safety net and lifeline for our community's displaced companion pets. A shelter our community can be proud of and be involved in. The community is calling for the termination of the CACC division manager, the administrative assistant who was a former interim division manager for 5 years, and the public works director who has been running CACC directly and indirectly for over a decade. You have already heard of the horrific deeds done by animal control in 2013 when there were no consequences. And in fact, those involved were promoted, even though the highest levels of city government were informed of these deeds, along with those involved finally being held accountable for their unconscionable deeds. The community also was calling along with a transition plan and reform plan fully informed by the community and fully transparent. We will be emailing each city council member a complete reform plan. Here are just a few reasonable elements the community expects to see. As operations of the animal shelter and care for the animals is the people's business, is paid for by the people, must be accountable to the people, and should reflect the people's values. This means programs and services that save lives and enhance the lives of all animals. CACC should be committed to transparency, public access, legal compliance, humane policies, progressive practices, and maximizing life saving. Shall be the policy of the city that no healthy or treatable dog, cat, rabbit, or any other animal in the shelter shall be killed. The shelter should be open to the public during hours that permit working people with families and children in school to reclaim or adopt during non-working and non-school hours. That means evening hours at least twice a week. The shelter shall provide care and treatment for all animals to ensure their well-being, including prompt and necessary veterinarian care, adequate nutrition, shelter, exercise, socialization. The people of our city have a right to expect the shelter to do everything in its power to promote, protect, and advocate for the lives of the animals. And going back to what got us in this position of needing a reform plan in the first place, when the Public Works Director or anyone else in charge of CACC complains and supposed lies being told about them, as she did at the last Animal Control Advisory Board meeting, each of you ask her, what lies, what's being said that you're trying to tell us isn't true? Where's the documentation? Where's the proof? Because until now, there's only been said to the public, and it's been put on this community, us, the taxpayers, to provide proof of what is and what isn't happening at CACC. It's an absolute disgrace. Council, you either can have the legacies of being the ones who knew it all and did nothing, like in 2013, or you can have the legacies of the ones who ended this all and helped create the solution. Which will you each choose? Our community is waiting.
Thank you, Debbie. Yes, ma'am. All right. Next is Ms. Nancy Anderson regarding Columbus Animal Care and Control.
All right.
You state your name and where you're from.
Good evening, counselors. My name is Nancy Anderson, and I am a Muskogee County resident residing in North Columbus.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to start off by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to my 5-minute spiel tonight. And I want to give a big thank you to our Columbus Police Department detectives that have taken countless hours out of their time, countless hours from their families, from their weekends, from their friends, to investigate the concerns that the citizens brought forward. We really appreciate it more than they know. Columbus Animal Control is a government entity that's practices and procedures have been overlooked for quite some time. More importantly, I'd like to focus on the term government entity, not a private entity like Paws or Animal Ark. This is a government entity that serves the taxpayers of this community. So why is a government entity treating citizens and animals with so much disrespect? Why is a government entity using the police to scare citizens away and threaten them? Why is a government entity telling the police that they can ban whoever they want from their property without a legitimate reason? Or better yet, coming up with a reason and having no tangible evidence to support any of these claims. The police who are trained to protect and serve are being used to instead harass and scare the citizens away by a government entity. A government entity that places zero value on an animal's life or well-being and has lied to the public several times in documented board meetings, emails, and official statements to cover their tracks. In this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. However, this same government entity will publicly defame the accused while not being able to produce evidence to even support their claims and refuses to acknowledge that you are innocent until proven guilty. This same government entity knows, This same government entity knows that reports full of false statements and only speaking to the witnesses you want will not hold up in a legitimate court of law. So instead, they just decide to not follow the law, to not follow the Constitution, and to not do the right thing. These laws and our courts were put in place to protect the innocent and bring justice, to right the injustices. Yet this same government entity has no respect for authority, for laws, for checks and balances, or for justice. I went to law school after graduating from one of the best agricultural schools in this nation, Kansas State University, a place where they care about animals, the environment, and so much more. I went to law school because I wanted to help those who couldn't help themselves. While in law school, I had the honor of serving as co-president of the Student Animal Legal Defense Fund, and that only scratched the surface of the animal law world for me. I also had the honor to serve on the Animal Control Advisory Board. While it was a short term, it was very beneficial. I got to do a lot of research, and I learned a lot about animal laws, but most importantly, I learned a lot about the flaws in our system because there's so much gray area in these laws that we are, maybe not intentionally, but we're violating people's constitutional rights by not acknowledging the flaws and the gray areas in the structure of these laws. So I ask you to please take the time to go through our ordinances concerning animals, animal welfare, and see if there's a way that maybe we can fix our system. Maybe we can make it a little bit better and help the people in this community that look to you for protection. When something happens with their animals, they're not expecting to end up in jail for 180 days. They really look to you for protection, and I ask you to please just consider looking through those laws and seeing if we can fix the flaws that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Mr. Nathan Smith regarding ethics.
Good afternoon. My name is Nathan Smith, resident here in Columbus, Georgia. I rise to speak on ethics. And ethics, of course, as you're aware, and I'm not here to give you a lecture, but ethics is just a system of governance, principles. Ever since mankind, there has been some sort of law or governance. Even in the Garden of Eden, we know that God told Adam and Eve they could eat any fruit except for one. Later on, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And I really wish I had the time to go through each one. And I am going to hit on a few. But the first thing I'm really concerned about as far as ethics is the ability to speak and not be interrupted. Every American has that right. Now let me say this to you, counsel. You also have that right. Free speech is not just for us. Free speech is also for you. And then there's another side of the coin, to where if you don't want to listen to what somebody is saying, you can get up and walk out. You can turn off a TV if you don't want to hear what's being said on it. But just let the people speak. But getting back to the actual part about ethics, The first commandment says, don't have any other gods before the true God. Don't make idols. Don't use the name of the Lord in vain. Keep the Sabbath day holy. Honor your mother and father. But then it says, do not murder. And just, my goodness, just this morning I opened up Facebook and I saw where a director in our city, Mr. Mayor, and there is, from my understanding, a police report that's been made of our current employed director putting out poison meatballs for animals to die. That's just not wrong, that's evil. That's demonic. Who would do such a thing? But that's where our taxpayer money is going, to fund people, incapable people such as her. It says, do not murder. It also says, keep your marriage promises. In other words, thou shalt not commit adultery. We had a speaker last week talk about nepotism. You said tonight, Mr. Mayor, that you interrupted because she was making an allegation. It is not an allegation that Everett Fleming is employed at Metro.
Right,
That's his brother-in-law.
That's enough.
Why is it enough, Mayor? Because you just said it was alleged. It's a matter of fact. Mr. Mayor.
I'm going to pause the timer.
You can pause it.
Because I'm just going to tell you that is an allegation I've asked, trust me, I asked city attorney, I said, we try to let everybody speak their mind on whatever they want to say, because it's their right.
Well,
Let me finish, it's not running.
Okay.
But when we get to a point where we are making allegations of criminal activity or violating code, then I can't let that continue.
Okay.
I mean, you can say that we're doing a terrible job, you don't believe anything I say, that you get to say all that. But we can't have reckless allegations made that we don't know to be true. So and these are things that I've asked the city attorney back. So I'm going to turn your time back on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the Ledger-Enquirer, every January, they publish the salaries of the employees by their name and the salary. You can look it up. He makes $81,000, $82,000 a year. But yes, I would encourage the city attorney to sit down and with the offenders of this law. There's also, we're trying to figure out what relationships the former chief of staff or a high-ranking manager of our city, what exactly was the relationship between them and possibly their mother? It goes on to say, do not steal. That's misusing our tax dollars to kill animals instead of take care of animals. It says, don't lie, which, when you all was lied to, this council was lied to, y'all were tricked into taking away the voting rights of us over at the Golden Park. It's not right. Nothing's been done to correct that as of now. And don't covet. I would urge this council, I don't know what goes on in executive meeting, but I hope you use that time tonight to seriously encourage our mayor, our city manager, and our lawyer to do better. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Investigations be clear so the truth.
I mean, you can't speak from the floor.
I just did.
Well, please don't do it again. I don't want to have you removed. Next is Ms. Jennifer Ledeni. Request for Rigdon Park's hours to be changed from closing at 11 to closing at dusk.
Good evening. I would say for everyone's 30 minutes, but I have to get home to my kids, so I hope everyone understands. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Lee Denny, and I reside in Columbus, Georgia, and I'm here to speak on Rigdon Park. Before I get too far, I want to start off with thanking our local law enforcement agencies. We do see all 3 agencies working through Oakland Park, and we appreciate what you do to make our neighborhood a safer place. Rigdon Park is supposed to be a public space for all to enjoy, but lately it's been, for the past year, off and on, a gathering place for a particularly large group on most Sundays. Normally, this is a non-issue, but lately we have had to deal with loud music, squealing tires from burnouts, speeding on the adjacent blocks next to the park, and sometimes even the roads being blocked on both lanes on the two-way street for them to exit out of the neighborhood or do stunt driving. This is, by the way, an unpermitted large crowd event, often with drugs, alcohol, and firearms on the property, sometimes with children present. When I had to plan a birthday party for my son and use the football field, I clearly remember having to obtain a permit and all the regulations established that I had to initial. Just because Rigdon Park is a public establishment does not mean that it is there to be trashed with glass bottles, for the grass to be torn up by ATVs and dirt bikes, and the parking lot to be covered in tire tread and stressed beyond the cracks that are already there while we are waiting for the city to fund the repairs that are desperately needed. Never mind the property damage that is going on in the neighborhood from the vehicles running into fences, running into mailboxes, and other vehicles while they practice throughout the week. Having fun at the expense of the residents who actually reside next to the park and further on in the neighborhood is not appropriate. Our ask is that the ordinance be changed to have Rigdon Park, or at this rate, all the parks, to be closed at dusk unless the event is previously permitted or they're scheduled league events. We also ask that you consider supporting CPD and MCSO on any request to fund positions to assist surveillance on these areas or related instances to include volunteers, part-time or full-time civilian positions. To my knowledge, there's been times that has been denied. An additional measure could be used as the cameras we keep hearing about. Are they actually operational? I heard there's some in Rigdon Park. Are they being used? I also had a conversation with Parks and Rec Deputy Director Becky Summerlin. I was surprised to hear that one time we had park rangers, and this was a request to have them budgeted back in. Our parks are a source, unfortunately, of other issues such as squatters, drug dealers, and gang activity, even murders. This is an investment that can relieve the law enforcement agencies and get our recreational areas back to where they're safe again. Currently, they're being monitored by MCP as best as possible. Let's start investing more in what will reduce our crime rate, and that is one that is free or affordable recreational activities in a safe environment. Thank you for this platform to express this concern.
Thank you, Mr. Denny. Councilor Kogel?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, for coming out, and I see Juanita Taylor in the back as well. I want to first say thank you to Oakland Park for working so hard at over the last couple years. They've worked very, very hard at having a neighborhood watch resurrected in that neighborhood, and recently a neighborhood association. So those are big steps for Oakland Park in getting some stuff done in South Columbus, and I applaud you for all your hard work, and I know Juanita's played a very large role in that as well. So thank you for coming up to talk about Rigdon Park. I know I've reached out numerous times to staff and to raise some concerns about what's happening in Rigdon Park on Sunday evenings particularly, and CPD and the sheriffs have done, and the warden have done an outstanding job in responding to those issues. But this is a growing concern of mine, and particularly for the neighborhood. I know we did install some gates a while back, But that's just simply not cutting it. And with the installation of a multi-million-dollar pool facility, some upgrades to Rigdon Park playground, this is going to become a opportunity for us not to take care of those resources in Rigdon Park. And I know I receive a lot of concerns from neighbors on the speeding of these vehicles. I mean, just be transparent. It's a car club that comes into Rigdon Park on the weekends, and it is unpermitted. They do have food trucks, and it's loud music, and there are many people, and it's not appropriate for that time of the evening, and it's not appropriate for the children that are in the park who are playing football, who are playing baseball, who are recreating. It's not appropriate for the neighborhood, and I mean, I have some concerns for Rigdon Park and its future, and I think that we need to really take a look at when the park is open and closed. I know the CPD and I think the warden have been very accommodating in opening and closing the gates, but the response that I'm getting of, we realize these are not permitted parties that are happening, and just leaving it at that is not the answer that I find that is acceptable. And I think that we need to, either as a council or as a staff, really address what's happening in our parks after dark and at dusk. So
Yeah, I forgot to say, it was 11 o'clock at night.
it is at
Or
11
sometimes
o'clock at
midnight.
night, and these parties gather at 7, sometimes at 6, and they go on till 11, 12 at night. And once they get started, it's really hard to stop them. And if we're talking about fighting crime in South Columbus particularly, if we're talking about fighting crime in our neighborhoods and setting up our children and our youth for success, this is one way that this is a low-hanging fruit that we can certainly take care of in making those neighborhoods safer. So thank you for coming up. And just a message to other people in Oakland Park, this is how we get stuff done. So I look forward to hearing from the rest of the neighborhood in the future.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Mr. Denny.
Is it an ordinance, Mr. City Attorney, that we close the parks at 11, or is it just a policy? Well, then I'd like to make a motion that we close the parks early at 9.
You want an ordinance brought forward?
The what? Oh, unless they're permanent events.
Or the leagues. Because I think they said that football sometimes
dusk.
they do end at 9:30.
And baseball.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I will say that certainly if that's the motion, we'll be guided by that. But back when we were having problems at Shirley Winston, I do know that the ordinance was amended, and it reads that the city manager, in consultation with the chief of police or the Muskogee County Department of Public Health, may issue administrative orders closing any specific park or playground for additional hours in the event that public safety concerns or public health concerns warrant such closure. It was, yeah, because I know you were, yeah, and so certainly if you want to do it at 9, or, yeah, I would recommend that we yield to the chief of police and we hear from him because they've been involved in the Rigdon Park situation. If the chief feels that it is at that point, then certainly he could request 9 o'clock or a different hour, or, you know, may not be ready to do that at this time. I don't know, but that's what the ordinance says, and And that is one way to, I believe, to take a closer look.
Yeah, I'm fine with addressing it with Chief Mathis and bringing it back as a motion for, at the next council meeting, based on his guidance of an hour, appropriate hour. I do want to make sure that we don't limit the youth sports that are happening, so it may be contingent on youth sports, and if they have, working together with their schedule. But once the youth sports wraps up, then closing the parks after youth sports, so. But that's something, I'll have that conversation, or I can bring it up to Chief Mathis and make sure everybody's looped in the conversation and see what he says.
City Attorney?
The city manager read the part of the ordinance correctly that you amended 3 years ago. He should consult with the chief of police or health department, and he can do this administratively. You don't need to come back with an ordinance amendment or a resolution. If they recommend closing a certain park at dusk, or all the parks at dusk, then the city manager can do that after consulting with the chief, so.
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, the chief will know best, because I know that they've been involved and they've been out there when this
Every week.
when this was activity was going on, so they know, they're familiar with it.
Councilor Thomas?
I have just a little concern about saying closing at 9 o'clock. As you know, we are about to enter into not daylight saving, regular old time, and it's going to get dark a lot earlier than 9 o'clock. And I would want the chief, the police chief, to give us the guidance that we need as to what time do we close and what is the best way to do that. And is it only Rigdon Park, or is it the other parks in the city? And I would certainly welcome a conversation with the city manager and the chief here for, and if we do need to change our ordinance or one of our regulations, we can do that. But I think we need to be very careful that we don't miss the opportunity. I have heard of the parties that are going on out in Rigdon Park, and they are going to continue to go even after dark unless we do something to stop them. So, Mr. City Manager, I hope that you will have this conversation fairly quickly and maybe come back to us at our next meeting with a recommendation, or not a recommendation, with what you and the chief have come up with to make sure that we're doing the right thing at our parks, and not just Rigdon Park, but other parks also.
And I think certainly regarding Rigdon, like with Shirley Winston, we were able to do it quickly, and because they've been out there, boots on ground with this activity, and they know what's going on, I think we can do it fairly quickly. And I agree with you that the chief needs to, we need to take a look at all of the facilities, because you heard me talk about environmental justice earlier, and we don't want people to get caught up in, you know, certain people have more recreational opportunities than others and that kind of thing. But there's a reason for it, obviously. But I'll get with the chief.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. I think that's
Thank you.
Councilor Tucker.
Yeah, and I appreciate you calling me earlier. Today, it's Carver Park that actually had the issue, not Shirley. Shirley B had a separate issue.
It was Carver, I'm sorry.
But
Yeah,
it's
Carver was the first
is
park.
The Carver Park is the one that actually is locked up. It opens at 7 a.m. and it closes at 7 p.m. But I'm happy that we're bringing this conversation up now, because one of the things that I would like to talk about once we come back is possibly open it on Saturdays, not Sunday, but Saturday, because that really was the bulk of the problem was on Sundays at Carver Park. But the reason why with Carver Park, we're closed, the recreation center is closed on Saturday, where Shirley B. Winston, the recreation center, is open on Saturdays. So it was easy to make those, adjustments, just putting that out there, because I know some people didn't like it, but the individuals that live in that neighborhood and, Deputy City Manager Lisa Goodwin is nodding her head. The people that was on our bus, on our town hall said they will beat us. They will be here in this audience if we open that gate and we change them hours. So, because we have not had any issues at Carver Park since 2021.
Yeah, and I'm glad you corrected me. I said Shirley Winston is not Shirley, I know. And so it was Carver Park, and I think I was thinking Shirley because we had, that's right, yeah. So at any rate, Mayor, I'll get with, we'll get with the chief and.
Okay. All right. Mr. Denny, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Carol Jamison, regarding perspectives on public agenda.
Thank you. My name is Carol Jamison. I reside in Rose Hill. When people occupy this space on the public agenda, it should go without saying that each of us is speaking from his own perspective. And I want to emphasize I'm speaking from my own perspective. I know what I have to say here is repeating some that other people have said, but I was not sure I would be here, and so I didn't know what I was going to say until after I got into this building and I wrote this down. So I didn't consult with anybody, so I'm the only person responsible for what I'm saying. Now, these perspectives can vary very widely. And that doesn't necessarily mean anyone is untruthful or even wrong. It's just different. One perspective could be that animal advocates' purpose is to divide, while another perspective is the animal advocates' purpose is to unite all of us in doing the right thing. But the perspectives may vary on what the right thing is. So I'll offer my perspective that animal advocates want this government to stop what is wrong. And what is wrong is this shocking, sickening abuse of helpless animals. If there are laws and regulations regarding the conduct and procedures of Columbus Animal Control, enforce them. If city employees are in violation through ignorance, stop them and retrain them. But if any city employees are deliberately breaking the law, the only course is to terminate their employment and refer the matter for prosecution. A government that will not govern itself according to law is unfit to govern its people. Someone expressed concern for the feelings of these officials. I will not comment on the irony of that perspective. These city employees are, by definition, public servants, subject to public scrutiny and public criticism. It can be harsh, and sometimes it is unfair, but it comes with the job. Any public servant who can't take criticism, from my perspective, has chosen the wrong career path. I'm sure we've all heard the old saying, if you can't stand the heat, get out of Columbus. It's just an expression, but some folks have taken it literally, and they're happier and more prosperous for it. The people have every right to comment on their government, even to point out mistakes and any wrongdoing. When that government is engaged in malfeasance and evil corruption, we have a civic responsibility to speak out and condemn it without fear of retaliation and intimidation from that government or from other citizens. We are also morally obligated to speak for those unable to speak for themselves, whether animals or people. Someone offered this perspective that these city employees are laughing at all of us. I agree with that. And I add my own perspective that they are spitting on us. The greater question is, are they spitting on the law? This administration made a mistake.
Ms. Jamison.
Sir?
I'm sorry. 5 minutes is past.
Oh, I'm sorry, too.
No, that's okay. If you would like, we've got some others that have wanted to stick around for another 3 minutes. I'd be glad to add your name.
Thank you, I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had not planned to, but I will. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. All right. Counselor Tucker?
Yes, Mayor. I sent probably a couple of questions over the weekend. I appreciate Miss Carol and all the animal advocates out there because they have a lot of questions. One of the questions, and I know you was looking into it, was in regard to the food. I think it was some puppy food or something like that. If we found out any answers regarding it.
Yeah, is Drell coming around to talk? Because I know I'd called the city manager.
Come out and talk there with you. I saw the question and I did.
Hit you light, I'm sorry. Okay. There we go, I'm sorry.
Mayor, I'll have the director answer the question, but you asked me that question. I sent you an email response, and I see she's coming around now. But the question, Director Short, I sent you an email or I asked a question and you responded regarding the availability of food for not just the facility, but for specifically for puppies. And you did send a response. Would you, if the mayor would, if you'll hit your
Turn
mic?
the light on up there. I must have hit that one by accident.
No.
That's it right there.
Green, okay. Yes, sir. When you called me on Saturday, and the mayor was inquiring on food for the animal control shelter, first of all, let me say that we buy food by the pallet. We don't buy it by the bag. That's number one. Same thing for puppy food. When we have an animal that's brought in that has special needs, we do from time to time have to go buy whatever that requirement is for that puppy or that dog. And in this particular case, we had an adult dog that had no teeth, and we had the puppies. We had some puppy food, but we had to get some adult dog food, soft food for the dog to be able to bite as well. But we don't run out of food. We are funded for food. We go get food every time we get low.
So how long were you without food for the dog without teeth?
Just as when he came in, we went straight to the store then and bought it. When I talked to the city manager, I was talking to Katrina, who was on her way back then with that food.
And I want to say thank you for helping with the incident, I think that was Saturday, where one of my constituents, they had a incident with a dog that possibly had rabies.
He was not.
But
He wasn't even sick.
But when citizens call, that's one of the questions is, because of course they know the things that's going on at animal care and control. So they like who is in charge, you know, what's the chain of command. You know, even me, I went straight to the mayor and then I sent the email. I think I called you first. And then I ended up sending the email, and then I was just, because my phone just kept going off over and over and over again about that dog. So that's another question, is, I guess, like the chain of command now that we have all these things going on.
So as far as the day-to-day operations, I am overseeing animal control. If animal control is back open to its normal schedule, if you have a call before, between the hours of 8 and 5, please call the normal number. If it's after 5, call 911. We have officers on the street until 10 p.m. After 10, we have on-call, but a very specific list of things that we will respond to after 10 p.m.
Are we back to picking up animals?
Yes.
If it's
Yes, ma'am.
And then the last question, in reference to the RFP, are we gonna be able to get that done soon?
I'm working on it. I'm hoping to have it done by this week.
So by
But
the
it's
end
a
of-
very complex document. It's not 1 or 2 pages. I've got to get everything in there, and I'm working on it myself.
Okay. All righty.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. City Manager, I think it's your.
Yes. So I've got a few things on my agenda, Mayor and Council. And the first one, of course, has to do with Synovus Park, the baseball construction. And, you know, there's bond money that is being used to construct. And the lighting, you know, they've demoed and they've moved some things around. And so the lighting has to be for ingress, egress, upgraded. And it's $260,000 to replace the previously demolished lighting.
Motion to approve, Councilor Kogel.
I know I've asked this previously, but just for the record, because Uptown has reached out, as well as numerous people from the Historic District and other concerned citizens about what the plan is to do to extend the lighting from Synovus Park to Broadway under the, I guess it's the west side, or, yeah, it's the west side of that walkway where not good things happen.
So can you speak to that, Director Pruitt?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of council. To address Councilor Kogel's question, so the lighting that is currently in this agreement are those paths. They pulled up the plan here on the screen. Those paths highlighted in purple is what this agreement would cover. Those are all paths that were added as part of the Synovus Park project. These paths are accessible 24/7, 365 to the public. So if I was walking from the Historic District to an event at the Civic Center, this is the path that I would follow. You can see on the top left of the screen, that's the parking lot under the Oglethorpe Bridge at the end of Broadway. So you would walk down there, and again, you can access these paths all the time. They're not within the secure perimeter of the stadium, but they do cover some of the ingress and egress from the park. And Councilor Kogel, to address your specific question, so we have not extended the boundary of the project into the parking lot or further west or further north. due to the upcoming replacement of the Oglethorpe Bridge. So GDOT, we have been coordinating with them on the right-of-way along 4th Street and the bridge right there. So when GDOT replaces that bridge, that parking lot is going to be closed for access during construction, and really GDOT is going to use that as their laydown area, and that entire area is going to be heavily impacted by that construction. So that's the reason we have not done improvements to that area.
So, what's that?
No, where the lights are going will not be impacted by the construction.
So, while we've got this also pulled up, I just also want to voice the concern of a number of constituents from across the city about the stairs that go from Golden Park down to the Riverwalk. They seem to be in some extreme disrepair, and I think that there will be quite a bit of foot traffic that's coming up and down the Riverwalk to Golden Park, and that does need to be probably addressed in the future. And then on the topic of lighting, is there a way that we can have a conversation with Georgia Power? Because it seems that all of the lights that are on the Riverwalk have been impacted for construction, but all the lights on the Riverwalk from about Golden Park here north are off, and it is super dark in the morning, and then and with the time change, it's pretty dark. And I can send you the exact numbers of the lights because they go all the way up to City Mills and beyond as well. So it's not just this strip, but this is the most noticeable strip that's out.
So there should not have been an impact to the lights when we coordinated removal of the lights closer to the park with Georgia Power. They actually refed the lights down closer to the Riverwalk from a different source. So there should not have been an impact caused by this project, but we'll certainly get with them first thing tomorrow to see what the issue is.
That would be great. I mean, I run it every morning, and I can tell you it's dark. It's dark.
Yes, ma'am.
Can't really see anything.
And Counselor, what we can do is, Georgia Power has a website that you can go to,
Yeah.
if you know the lights.
Yeah, but there's
you
about 75 of them, so
Yeah.
that's individual, 75
If there were one or two
individual.
that you wanted to call in, you can, but
I'll
we'll get
I'll
with
send
them.
all the light numbers to you as well.
So
All
Mayor.
right, so we had a motion. Is there a second?
I say.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, if you'd put it on the screen, I guess, and we can let the counselors enter their votes.
So,
All right, that's approved.
so next, Mayor, I've got the fiscal year 25 HUD Annual Action Plan. You know, we get home money, we get CDBG money, and now we're getting $145,932 in Emergency Solutions Grant. That wasn't included in the previous approval, so each time we get some more money or something different, we've got to bring this to you. We're asking your approval.
Motion second to approve item 2, the HUD Annual Action Plan. Any discussion on that item? All right, if you put it on the screen, council will call the vote. Okay, that passes.
Next, we've got a 200.
All right, there's a motion second to approve items 3 and 4. Are there any discussion on either one of those? All right, then if you'd put number 3 on the board with the understanding you're voting for 3 and 4, council, you can call the vote.
So, Mayor, while they're doing that, one's a $297,057 grant for Metro to procure and install 360 metal seat compact seats at bus stops across the city. And then we've got the 2023 Brownfield Multipurpose Grant. It's $1 million or up to $1 million, I should say, and grant funding will be utilized to conduct brownfield assessments of properties and cleanup activities with Bibb Mill and South Columbus. And then I've got some purchases. I've got language services.
All right, there's a motion and a second on the table to approve all of the purchases, items A through H. Is there anyone that someone would like pulled? Any questions on one? All right, then we'll put it on the screen. And again, just understand you're voting for all the purchases when we call the vote.
And while they're doing that, Mayor, I'll just say that language services is various agencies and services, and there's probably 10 of them listed that I won't call out. But when there are language barriers, we can call on the appropriate service that's needed for that language barrier. You got flood abatement project, 19th Street system. This is something that has been going for many years, and but that's a flood abatement. I've got storm drain rehabilitation through internal pipelining, and there are various agencies, and we try and go ahead and get them identified so that if something comes up, we don't have to go through a lengthy RFP process. We call on the appropriate agency that we need to assist us with that issue. I've got replacement fire hose for fire EMS. I've got redundant communication equipment and services for Homeland Security Emergency Management. And I've got storage facility rental for the Sheriff's Office. I've got computer equipment and computer services for IT on an as-needed basis. And then I've got replacement self-contained breathing apparatus for fire EMS. Those are the purchases. I do have one update, and I do apologize for Mr. Ben Moser, who has been here for hours now, and you got your civic lesson this evening, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Come on back and enjoy it. But come on up, Ben. Pam, you want to talk first?
Yes, just a quick introduction. So the Poverty Reduction Initiative is one of the subrecipient agreements that we have with United Way that's utilizing ARP funding. And we've asked them to come and just give you an update on what they've been able to accomplish and their timeline and plans going forward.
And this is in line with, you know, agencies that we award ARP dollars. We want them to come and, like Cure Violence and others, and tell you what they're doing with that funding. So that's why he's here tonight.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Hodge. Really appreciate the opportunity and all of your work on this initiative. Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, councilors, thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight. And thank you for the overall support for this program. We're making great progress with it. I'd also like to recognize our other members in attendance tonight. Belva Dorsey-Mott is here from the Chattahoochee Valley Poverty Reduction Coalition and Enrichment Services. Warren Steele with the CVPRC and the Imagination Library. Alex Hinton, our CFO at United Way, and Jennifer St. John, our Senior Vice President of Impact at United Way. So this initiative highlights our collaborative leadership and efforts, where we've been, where we're going, and I'd like to share our next steps on that as well. There. Okay. Back when we took on this initiative at United Way, we changed our mission to reduce poverty in our community by 50% in 10 years. It's simply to reduce poverty, but that is the goal, to reduce it by 50% in 10 years. That's a heavy lift. We need a lot of help with that, and the city has stepped up with this really extraordinary piece of funding for this effort. Again, we thank you for that. Today, there's a shared commitment to this reduction of poverty from all of our partners, from all the United Way funded partners, as well as our larger partner universe. And we know to achieve this, it's going to take a real effort by everyone in our community. all working together. I would like to recognize some other funders besides the City of Columbus. Columbus 2025 has come in with a lot of funding for this effort, Goodwill Industries, as well as the Mildred Miller Fort Foundation, and collectively we're well over $1 million in funding for this effort over the next couple of years. So a lot of collaboration and leadership from those organizations coming in to help us with this. The leadership of the CVPRC, the Chattahoochee Valley Poverty Reduction Coalition, really needs to be recognized for the work that they have done for many years here in our community. The first time I heard about this initiative was at a Columbus 2025 meeting back before COVID, right after I was hired into my current role. And Belva was there and shared a lot of the statistics about poverty in our community. And there was a lot of collaboration and discussion at that meeting about how best to attack this issue. And out of that meeting came this big, bold goal to reduce poverty in our community by 50%. COVID slowed things down a little bit. We had a lot of triaging to do with lots of issues across our community, but we got back on track pretty quickly. After COVID kind of settled down, and since then we've been working together hand in hand for the last 2 years really to get this off the ground, to secure the funding, to make sure this is well resourced, and to really create pathways to prosperity for all of our citizens through this initiative. You see here some of the stats about poverty in our community. 1 in 5 members of our community here in the Chattahoochee Valley live in poverty. That is higher than the national average, which is about 12%. It's higher than the state of Georgia average, which is about 16.5%. We know that tackling that poverty rate that is way too high is going to really help with all of the ills of our society, the crime rate, food insecurity, children who suffer from living in intergenerational poverty, domestic violence. All of these things can be addressed through addressing the overall poverty rate. You see there the other number, 56%. That is members of our community who are struggling living paycheck to paycheck. And this population is referred to as ALICE, Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employed people. And so that's well over half of our citizens, our residents here, are living paycheck to paycheck, not able to sustain any sort of adverse event. And we see it every day at United Way through our 211 service. These folks call in and they've had something happen in their life, a divorce, an incidence of domestic violence, you name it, a car breaking down or an accident, a medical condition that immediately throws them into jeopardy of becoming one of these 1 in 5 members of our community that live in poverty. So every day at United Way, through our 211 service, through Home for Good, through community schools, we are working with these citizens and families to help them overcome and get over that hump, stay in their home by paying a utility bill or paying a rent bill for the month. And we have assistance from the federal government with that, from the Department of Community Affairs in Atlanta. And that's what this is all about. It's a lot more efficient to use resources to help people in the moment rather than letting them become homeless. And then, the situation is much more dire, and this affects everyone in our community. Beyond these stats, 6%, we are in the bottom 6% of communities as far as being economically mobile in our community. That's one of the big stats that really sticks out that makes this initiative so important. And what that means is if you are born poor in the Chattahoochee Valley, the chances are that you are going to stay poor. And that's something that we're trying to reverse through this initiative, through all the work of our partners, of our coalition, and at United Way. And this goes really to the heart of that issue. So collectively, we need to move more people to financial security and reduce the poverty rate by creating these pathways to prosperity. You see here our impact areas that we work off of at United Way: community resiliency, health access, educational equity, and economic mobility. These are really the 4 areas that we're working in through the poverty reduction initiative to try and help people get on those pathways to prosperity. I'll give you some stats here. we have a lot of partners working on this, and all funded and strategic work is really aligned towards poverty reduction at this point. You saw our mission earlier. Just in the community resiliency area, we have 425 partners working on this. Financial security, over 80 partners. Healthy community, 60 partners. Youth opportunity, 80 partners. And the capacity to lead in all areas, another 75 partners. So hundreds of partners working on this on a daily basis, coming together for the community, and making good use of the resources that have been entrusted to us by this council and the other entities. I'm not going to read all these, but here are some of the successes that we have had, some of the results that we've had so far with the initiative. But I would like to really highlight our 211 service again. This is the entry point for residents in our community into all of these services. We have the 211 Center at United Way, and we're having over 26,000 website visitors a year, 1,000 texts, and about 20,000 calls come into our center, and we're able to provide the folks who call in with over 500 resources across our community. And we couldn't do any of that without the partnerships that have been created through this effort. So thank you for that, and thank you for supporting this ecosystem. You see here some of the things that we're working on right now. You saw on the last slide some of the things that we've already accomplished. Some of the things that we're working on right now are quarterly poverty awareness and engagement training, stakeholder and community conversations, strengthening community partnerships, surveying state-level policies and regulations. A lot of this is about creating more equitable systems in our community. Of course, systems are made up of people, and so we're really targeting efforts of advocacy and work across our community, across these systems, working with our state legislative delegation, with our federal delegation, and of course with you, council, and other regional municipalities, and trying to promote policies that provide equity to our citizens in these areas and really raise up the level of financial stability for our whole community. We're really focused on leading a collaboration for poverty reduction. That's the most important thing, is that we do this in a collaborative way, and that this initiative can be that leadership kind of point that everyone can come together through and get all of these things done, ultimately resulting, we hope, in a major poverty reduction drop in our community. 50% is the goal. I think if we can get somewhere close to that, that would be a success. That's a big number. It's difficult to do. I don't think it's ever been done in a community of our size, certainly in the southeastern United States before, but we like big, bold goals and public-private partnerships here in the Chattahoochee Valley and in Columbus, and so that's what we're focusing on doing. We know that we need to build capacity to do these things, and really, really, as I said, hone in on policy and systems level work, and that is what we're doing together. And we can solve these problems if we do work together. And results are being measured across various data points: employment, healthcare, housing, educational data, specifically by a reduction in the rate of overall poverty and childhood poverty, which is actually the largest drain on our gross domestic product every year in the United States, is issues of childhood poverty. I think it's like $1 trillion a year that we spend in the United States dealing with issues of childhood poverty. No child should have to grow up in poverty. This is a real travesty of the whole situation that we have here, is that we have kids in our community that don't have a chance to see another life. They don't have the hope that they need. And so we're really, really targeting a lot of services on these kids in our community. Some of the other things I would like to highlight before I finish up are some changes that we would like to make to the contract, which we have submitted to the Deputy City Manager, an updated budget. We have had turnover recently at the VP of Poverty Reduction position, but we are actively seeking to hire for that role, and we have some great candidates that are coming forward as we speak. And you know, the focus of that role is to align all of these partners and systems and strategies over the next several years. And then we would also like to add some personnel heft to assist in this effort, and we've sent an amended budget along to Deputy City Manager Hodge, laying out some of those changes that we would like to make to the budget. But I would just like to close by saying that this piece of funding from the city is vitally important to the continuation of this effort. We greatly appreciate the trust that you have placed in all of us here and in United Way to lead this effort, and we will not let you down. So thank you so much for your consideration of the amendments, and I would take any questions at this time if you have them on the work that we're doing or plan to do over the next couple of years.
Councilor Tucker.
I don't have any questions. I really just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to you and the team for all the work that you do. It's real funny. I'm in my finals week, and I'm taking a public budgeting class, but also a nonprofit organization class. And lo and behold, the model that we use is United Way, far as measuring outcomes, and you all have a actual model. And honestly, that's something that we're always asking about, measurements, seeing if it's effective, coming back, you come and you provide facts and data, and those are the things that help us make decisions. And also, when we're asked questions by constituents and other residents about how dollars are allocated within our community, when you are bringing the facts, it helps us be able to provide that information to the community and also continue to support United Way. So I'm just gonna say thank you, and I made an A because of, doing it the United Way.
Well, congratulations on that A. Thank you, Councilor Tucker. Appreciate that.
Well, Ben, you and the team, y'all do a fantastic job. I can remember having a discussion with Belva right about the time that you're talking about, right about the time you came into Columbus, which, by the way, was a fortunate thing for Columbus, and talking about the Poverty Coalition and how we were going to begin to, how y'all were going to begin to address it. And it's really something that has got to be done, and we've got to be successful. And I hope that the people that you're reaching out to within the community, that will resonate with them, because this has to be from the community out. And I just want to thank you and your team. Y'all all do a fantastic job. Just appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And so, Mr. Moser, and to the entire team, thank you for all that you have done and will continue to do. We will bring that amendment back on the next council meeting, the second Tuesday in October. I believe that may be the 8th, or I can't write off, but we'll bring it back. Okay. But thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Appreciate you.
Thank you all for your patience.
Okay. Thank you all for your service.
And Mayor, that concludes my agenda. I just want to mention a couple of things. You should have received an email today about changing the Hometown Connection date, and it was requested by the delegation. There's another something going on that they will be attending, and you perhaps will be attending as well on the 24th. That starts at 11:30 at the National Infantry Museum, and the delegation, they were all going to be there, and so we needed to change the date to accommodate so that they will be at our event, of course. And so that's on the 29th, same time, same place, Trade Center, but that date has changed. And you should have received an email today. It's going to be, instead of October 24th, it's going to be October 29th, which was scheduled to be a council meeting day. And I think there's something on the clerk's agenda to change that. And so it was going to be a day that you were going to be scheduled to be at council. And so we'll do this on that day instead at 11:30. And then the mayor mentioned the possible hurricane impact in Columbus earlier, and he mentioned, and I've been communicating with all of the various departments, and they are preparing for this as they would any other event that we anticipate. So from facility maintenance to fleet to street paving, stormwater, urban forestry, community service, and even with waste collection, they are prepared. Engineering, they're doing what they need to do, and Parks and Rec, of course, doing what they need to do. And I've been in constant communication with Homeland Security Director Chance Corbett, and so we don't know what's going to happen, but you know, should something happen, our team, they're ready to deal with whatever we've got to deal with. Mayor, that concludes my agenda.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk? Oh, Counselor, did I turn you on? Let's see, hit the button one time. All right, one more time. Dadgummit, hit it. Give me one more shot. Well, fat fingers. There we go. I think I finally got it. Oh,
Good.
Councilor Crabb, that might be why hers didn't come on, yours did.
Go ahead with your first point. I guess your first point was the letter from the Solicitor General, and it says for information only, so no action is supposed to be taken on that?
That's correct, Councilor Crabb. It was just a letter from the Solicitor General for Muskogee County, just notifying us, that she wishes to place her employees under the merit system, which also would put them under the Personnel Review Board as well. So no action is needed.
So we don't vote to allow that to happen? It just happens?
As far as I know, that's correct.
I don't see yours on. There it is. There you go.
Yes, under state law, these elected officials have the authority to place their employees in the merit system. We don't have to vote to accept them. That's the way it's always been done.
Okay, I'm just kind of curious why this is happening at this time.
I'm sorry, you're curious as to what?
Why this letter happened now. I mean, she's been in that position for several years, correct?
As far, yes.
And I'm just...
It was submitted for the agenda. She submitted it to the clerk, which is the requirement that it be provided to the clerk.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, item 2 on the clerk's agenda is a resolution canceling the October 29th.
Motion second to approve. Is any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Mr. Mayor, how is what the city manager just said about our changing our date? The changing of the date from the 24th to the 29th?
No, it was 29th. We're just canceling the meeting on the 29th. The other event goes from the 24th to the 29th.
The hometown connection.
Yeah, instead of the meeting, the work session for the city council meeting, we canceled that, and then we're going to schedule the hometown connection on that day.
Well, I wish the city manager were here. I am hoping that if we do cancel the meeting on the 29th, which should have been a work session, that the city manager typically has presentations to us on that day. And I'm hoping that he doesn't fill up the 2 council meetings before that with these presentations so that, you know, our having a 8-hour council meeting, unfortunately, lately has not been unusual. And I would request that any updates or presentations or whatever, that he do that very, very carefully so that we don't have that kind of council meetings on the 8th and the, the 22nd.
We will make sure that that doesn't happen.
Thank you.
And Counselor Thomas, we'll make a referral to that as well.
Counselor Tucker?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what
We'll
you said.
notate that as a referral as well.
I actually had a question about one, but you finished, Counselor Thomas? When, this is for City Attorney, Assistant City Attorney, in regards to the merit system for employees by elected officials, can it be reversed if another elected official come into office and they don't want that office to be under the merit system?
It cannot be reversed as to any existing employee. They could make a determination for future employees not to be hired under the merit system. But once someone is given the status, it can't be taken away.
So you can only do it for those ones after, not the, so it basically keeps those individuals that's in office now, well, that's working, employed now, protected under the merit system.
They will go under the merit system and remain protected.
Is it normal for these actions to occur prior to, well, when you're in an election cycle?
Quite frankly, it's been a while since the last one has happened, so I really couldn't speak to when they happened.
I think the last time it happened was before the Sheriff John Darr was elected, like right before he was elected. The same thing occurred, and I think it also happened with, was it Julia Slater, the Superior Court? I think it happened before her. It was, all these actions have been taken prior to the new person coming in and during the election cycle, and sometimes even when the individual has lost office, they set it up for the next person to not be able to manage their office the way they would like to.
Well, it does protect whoever the employees are when the decision is made. And there's no, to my knowledge, there's no restriction on what the timing for being able to do that is.
And I say, I'm not trying to say nothing negative, but when you're talking about elected officials and those type of duties, like solicitor general, I think of it as a president who has an administration, and they should be able to choose exactly who they want to work within their office. Now, we did have an issue, of course, with DA, the former DA, where he got rid of everybody, but we didn't have to have any issues with lawsuits or anything coming to us. But once these individuals, if something does happen, and a new person wins, and they want to get rid of those employees, wouldn't it be a lawsuit?
Well, they would have the flexibility to have their most immediate deputies and associates be people they had chosen, but they would not be able to diminish the salary or position of the people who are in the merit system without cause.
All right.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, we need a vote for item 2.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve item 2. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It passes.
Item 3 is a resolution ratifying the appointment.
Motion and a second to approve item 3. Any discussion on that item? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's approved.
Item 4 is email correspondence from Chat Hall that is requesting that the seat of Craig Burgess be declared vacant due to lack of attendance.
Motion second to approve the item 4. Any discussion on that one? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Item 5 is email correspondence from Kristen Youngwist. She is requesting that the seats of 3 different members be declared vacant due to lack of attendance, and this is for the tree board.
Motion second to declare those seats vacant. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Motion and second to receive the minutes. Is there any that anyone would like to have pulled? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Under the board appointments, we have the mayor's appointments. Any nominations may be confirmed at this meeting. For the Community Development Advisory Council, we have Armando Fernandez and Tamika McKenzie, and I believe Mr. Mayor is working on nominees for these seats.
Yep, I am.
For the Columbus Ironworks Convention and Trade Center Authority, the seat of Carson Cummings is expiring in October, and Mr. Mayor is nominating Brittany Perkins, and she can be confirmed.
Motion second to confirm Brittany Perkins. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Next item is council district seats, and any nominations may be confirmed at this meeting. For the Community Development Advisory Council, the seat of Virginia Dickerson expired in March of this year, and Councilor Huff is nominating Elisa Price, and she may be confirmed.
Move and second to, motion second to confirm. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? She's confirmed.
Next are council appointments, and any nominations would be listed for the next meeting. For the Animal Control Advisory Board, Sabine Stoll, she was the Animal Rescue Representative, and she is not eligible to serve another term, and her term expired in April of this year. Then we have the seat of Nancy Anderson, who resigned, and so we'll need someone to fill that term as well.
Councilor Hickey?
I just wanted, before we get off the clerk's agenda, ask the assistant city attorney, can you get us a copy of the law on that concerning the merit system that with elected officials?
I can get that for you.
Yeah, I would like to get a copy of that and take a look at it. Thank you.
Next, for the tree board, we have the seat of Jeremy Cummings. He served as the public utility representative, and he recently resigned as he has a new position with the Columbus Waterworks. Then we have the seat of Frank Tommy, who is the residential development representative, and his term actually expired in 2020. And he is not eligible to serve another term, so we will need a replacement for that.
He's already served another term.
I will say that the tree board they're working diligently to try to get this board together so they can start meeting regularly like they're supposed to.
Good.
Then for upcoming board appointments, we have 2 board memos. We have one for the Hospital Authority of Columbus. These are council's nominations and confirmations. And then the Housing Authority of Columbus, Mr. Mayor, this is your appointment for the resident position, and this is a 1-year term.
Okay.
And that's all we have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you. We had a request for an executive session to discuss litigation and personnel. Okay. All right, we'll go through the public agenda before we go into the executive session. Yeah. All right. First is Mr. Marvin Broadwater, Sr.
I'm good, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
You good? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Broadwater. All right, next is Ms. Teresa Elamine. All right, Ms. Ally Johnson? Okay, thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Sandy Gunnels? Yes, ma'am.
Since we're still having trouble with what 1A covers and doesn't cover, let me read this other. There are only a few categories of speech that are given less or no protection by the First Amendment. These include speech that incites imminent lawless action, some obscenities, not all. I was shocked at some of the things that aren't covered. Child pornography, speech integral to illegal conduct, true threats of bodily harm, and known false statements of fact. I gave no known false statements of fact. I gave facts. And Mr. Smith gave more information about that. Again, I attempted to address the council at the last meeting. However, I was illegally stopped and not allowed to continue to give my prepared speech, even though I only identified Isaiah Hughley by his title as city manager, as the mayor has instructed and allowed in the past. Many speakers, both pro and con, including myself, have successfully spoken that I've personally witnessed following this illegal instruction. Based on the research I've done, the mayor may not restrict speakers to using titles only or identifying CCG employees or elected officials by name. That is also against Supreme Court 1A opinions. But thanks to that illegal action and the cheap shot Mr. Hughley thought was a cunningly timed outburst at the last meeting, even more evidence of nepotism has been discovered. With all the issues, investigations, and employees on paid administrative leave currently occurring within numerous CCG departments managed by Mr. Hughley, I must assume, based on what I experienced at the last council meeting and tonight, that no one in front of me is concerned about a 1A or 2 1A lawsuits. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we need to go into executive session. Oh, I'm sorry. No, come on, I apologize. I had struck through the wrong one. I'm sorry, dude. I apologize.
Thank each of you for your service. Our community does appreciate you and recognizes your hard work in your districts. And your districts make up one Columbus United. I'm going to reiterate something that I said earlier, but first I want to say that it's shameful that we have our sheltering system under Public Works, which is trash and landfill. We have living beings under trash and landfill. Contemplate that. And what does your heart say about that? You know, we pledge to allegiance, we have prayer, you know, one nation under God, justice for all. There's no justice for these animals at Columbus Animal Control, and each of you know that. That's why we're asking you and we're demanding that you take CACC out from under Public Works and make it a standalone department. And truly, we can have a true shelter and a lifeline. And our community will support this. We will donate to it. We donate to it now. We donate food. Different items we donate. I don't need to go into that. I'm going to ask you again, council. I'm going to ask each of you. You can either have the legacies of being the ones who knew everything that we've brought before you and done nothing about it, or you can have the legacies to do what is just and what is right. And you need to search your heart for that, because everything we brought before you is not assumptions. It's not speculation. It's facts. And we stand behind our word. Our word is our bond at Columbus Animal Allies. That is Allie, Mimi, and myself. We don't tell lies. We don't tell untruths. They're facts. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Did we skip anybody else? Sure, you can have 3 minutes. Anybody that spoke earlier has an opportunity to finish up.
So thank you for allowing me to speak. When I did speak earlier about the closures at CACC and business continuity plan, Mr. Mayor, you looked as if you had something to say. So I'm going to ask again, is there a business continuity plan in place for Columbus Animal Care and Control in the event of a major disruption, which I think a communicable disease outbreak is a major disruption?
Yeah, we're going to get, that's one of the things we're looking forward to getting from the investigation. We have
Okay.
not communicated with them. I expect, just my personal perspective, I expect some pretty massive changes once we get everything back from the investigation. That's why it's difficult to respond, I think, to some of the things you're saying, because the truth is we just don't know. Council has not seen a full presentation. I have not seen it. So we're anxious to try to get that so that we have a starting point to start moving towards what, whether you believe it or not, what we all want. We all want the same thing. In fact, I think the best way to get there is we'll put together a team and try to bring some folks from the Animal Allies area, from the and also some folks from here, so that we can work together on taking a look at what was identified.
Okay, that's good to know. I appreciate that. But it seems like there's definitely some gaps for us to have these kind of closures and just flat out refuse to help citizens when they're finding stray animals. That there definitely is a gap there, and I hope that it is addressed with that investigation. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, motion second to go in executive session. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are in executive session. Just litigation and personnel. If there's no other business to come before the council, I'll entertain. Motion second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned.